Hello. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the X-Foils podcast. I'm Dylan, your host. Thanks for joining me. I usually do an audio intro. This time I'm doing an audio and a video intro. I'm in Hawaii, in Kihei. Epic. Not going to talk about it because there's going to be a lot of X-Foils content coming out of this. I did want to give just a little bit more context into what's coming up in this next episode. I've got Carson, epic dude from Rincon. He's got the Taino dive shop. He's been in Puerto Rico for 33 years. And the first section, we talk a lot about water safety and how the community can help and kind of where Puerto Rico lacks lifeguards and water safety and how he's trying to implement that. And they're really on the roll with Rincon Water Safety. Talk about brag and suds and all these different kind of water safety trainings and stuff and that he does, which is just so epic. We do talk about foiling, but it's really about, all of us are in the water and we can, not even in the water, but just in general, we're all in this community together and we got to know how to help each other and what the procedure is and what the fastest way to the car to the hospital would be. And we talk a lot about that and a bunch of stuff in general. And the last little bit of this YouTube video, we did a CPR, how to use an AED, tourniquet talk, and just in general, how to help somebody in a scenario, whether they're drowning, if you're a surfer, you're the first responder out there, foiler. So I think it's really important, and I love that Carson kind of brought that to this episode, and that was kind of one of his goals was to get that across and reach my audience and all of our foil audience out there that we're all a little bit more aware of, the water safety and how to help somebody in the procedures. Like, second is really all about foiling and how he got into it, a pioneer of, supping at Tres Palmas and foiling and just epic, dude. Super stoked. Thank you guys, like always, for tuning in. I really love it, man. I'm in Hawaii, downwinding, doing Maliko runs, maybe a Kihei run today. Super stoked. So thank you guys. You.
Welcome back to the X-Foils podcast. Thank you for joining us. Carson, thank you for coming all the way out here.
Yes, thank you for having me, Dylan. I'm pumped.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it's super cool
to
have you come out to San Juan. I know you're really cozy over there in Rincon on the West Coast.
It's tough to get me off the West Coast. It really is.
So what are you doing in San Juan? Did you particularly come for this, or you had to do something and fit us into the mix?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of, comboed it. I got my girlfriend is doing like a little real estate course. And so she's like, I got to do it this date. I go, perfect, because I've been planning on doing a hookup with you here.
Yeah.
And so it just, I
reached out to you a while ago.
Yeah.
And I
was actually in Hawaii.
Oh, really? Damn.
Yes.
Nice.
When you reached out to me, and then I put it on the calendar. And so, I had a great time.
Which island were you on?
I work with, it's called SUDS, which is Soldiers Undertaking Disabled Sports. Mm-hmm. And it used to be Soldiers Undertaking Disabled Scuba. And then my good buddy, who's the founder of it, he ended up adding rappelling and just a lot of stuff, skiing, mountain biking, rappelling. And so it's veterans injured, it's veterans who are amputees or, PTSD, whatever it is, TBIs. And so he started it in 2007. He used to be my captain and one of my dive instructors. His name is John Thompson. Mm-hmm. And so 2008, he got me involved. So he was bringing these wounded vets down to Rincon, and then we would teach them to scuba dive, and then we'd take them on dives. And so we'd do these weekly tours with them, and then he moved back, and then so we literally every week had wounded vets on the boat.
Wow.
And then we travel with them. We go all over the world, take them on dive excursions. And so one of them is Kona, is the big island.
Oh, cool.
And so did that like the first week of May, and he's been doing it now for years. This is the first time I got to go to Kona and do the dive, and the diving there is insane. Like it's famous for mantas. They have just huge, I'm talking they have 20, 25 foot mantas. Wow. So there's this night dive that I got this like insane underwater footage of where, you know, sometimes on a night dive, they'll have anywhere from 10 to maybe 20 mantas. And it's only like 30
That
feet of water.
consistent, huh?
Oh, it's every night pretty much. And in 30 feet of water, you drop down. It's a flat area. It's right off a drop. And they have these big halogen lights that shoot straight up. And so all the plankton come in and are attracted to the halogen lights.
Yeah.
So the mantas are just doing loop-de-loops, eating the plankton, and you're sitting right on the outside of it. And they're literally, I had one smash me square in the head. I'm just like videoing this other one, and all of a sudden, dink, and like full on like a 20-foot manta almost knocked my mask off. And so we did that. I was in Kona for a week, big tigers, you know, a lot of pelagics and stuff. It's an amazing dive.
Yeah.
And went with a place called Jack's Dive Locker, which is famous. Grateful Dead used to go stay with him, with Jack, and dive with him. He's got photos all over the shop with him and Jerry Garcia and stuff. And so did that for a week. And then Maui with, you know, Art for a week, stayed with Art, and just did as much foiling as we could possibly do. And then...
As you should, right?
Exactly. And I mean,
I was worried about the whole diving thing. I was like, I hope you got some foiling in there.
Yeah, no, I started with the dive, foiled
Nice
all
and
in
chill.
Maui, and actually very blessed. We had a solid south swell for 2 weeks that I was there, and a good friend of mine from college has a surf school in Lahaina that burnt down from the fires, and he was right on Front Street. And so we actually, it was the first time he had been back since the fires. It was very emotional. And so we actually took paddle boards and paddled, like, because they have it blocked off. You're not allowed to go into Lahaina at all.
Oh,
they still haven't done anything.
Wow.
It's still pretty much exactly the way that it was left from you know, from the incident. Yeah. And so they have it all blocked off, guards, everything. You're not allowed in. And there's a wave that's right there by the harbor that is just an amazing, amazing wave. And normally, and that's like right in his backyard. That's where he teaches his lessons.
Yeah.
And usually there's 50 people plus out there surfing. And so we had to take paddle boards, put our short boards on the paddle boards, and paddle about a mile down to get in, and then we just put the paddle boards on the beach and then paddled out. And it was literally myself and him and a couple of local buddies that were surfing, and it was pumping like 10-foot faces to double overhead every morning. So I would leave Arts, drive all the way to Lahaina, which is about an hour, because he's up in Haiku, and then I'd surf all morning, and then I'd rush back. I'd meet Art at Ka and just wing the rest of the time. And then we had a couple of days that had no wind because it was a weird storm that was going on. There's a lot of rain. And so then we took out the Barracuda boards, the downwind boards, and we'd take them out and just catch waves and just do that all day. And that was like the first time that I had actually gotten on a downwind board.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I started, my whole foiling career started with stand-up board. That's how I learned.
Yeah.
Because I was an ambassador for Armstrong and for Starboard, and started with GoFoil through Starboard and all that, and started bringing GoFoil here. Eventually started working with Carla and Alex Aguirre. And this was back in like 2015 or 16, like when they first came out. And when GoFoil...
And you're in Rincon, right?
Yeah.
And how long have you been there?
I moved to Rincon in 91.
Okay.
I moved there. I went there for a month.
I'm not going to say it. That's the year I was born.
Yeah. So I've been there that long. So you must be the age of Jesus.
33.
33.
33 years.
That's right. The age of Jesus. So I moved there then. I just went there for a month. I was a scuba instructor. I went to college, University of Florida, originally from Texas, Fort Worth. Grew up a lake rat. Like literally my backyard was a lake. My parents were big skiers and fishermen and stuff like that. So I just grew up in a lake house, just basically water skiing my whole life. And then, and fishing, freshwater. And then from there, graduated University of Florida, went down to down south to Miami, got my scuba instructor certification through Patty, and I was heading to Jamaica. I had a buddy that owned a dive shop in Jamaica, heading to Jamaica. I got a call, Rincon, Puerto Rico. They just opened a little mom and pop dive shop called Captain Bill's Dive Shop. And that was the first shop in Rincon. And they needed an instructor. And I was like, I'll come tomorrow and check it out. You know, I know there's good surf there. I literally had a backpack, a guitar, and a surfboard to my name. And so I just headed to Puerto Rico for a month.
Those are the good times.
It was great times. Yeah. It was a lot simple life back then.
Yeah, because when you're saying you're in Hawaii and you're saying you're doing this one other, thing that you've got going on, you've got another thing going on, you've got, I don't know what you've got going on, but you got a lot of stuff going on, Carson.
I do have a lot going on. Yeah. It's all good. It's all progress and beautiful things.
So you brought all this, safety kit and AED and a baby and half a man.
Yes,
down
exactly.
there.
Yeah.
Because you're doing, we've talked about it on the podcast before, and I'm not really like in the know of how it is here, or how it's come about, because talking about water safety, right? So you're deep into that, right? And that's kind of what you're focusing on right now, is what it seems like.
Very much.
And we were talking about it, that there's no lifeguards, anywhere here in San Juan, maybe one in a Banuario down in Carolina, maybe one in Salinas sometimes.
Yeah.
And
they have some in La Concha. They have
do they have it now?
Yep.
Okay.
They have Concha has it.
That's new within the last year, I assume.
It's been
Work in progress.
It's been a work in progress, but I think they've had it in the last couple years.
Okay.
They started a couple years. The guy Wilfredo.
I did a course with him, I think.
Yeah, probably. He does Red Cross.
Yeah.
He's the one that certifies Red Cross. Him and Kana.
We do our course through him. I don't know if he's doing it all the time now, but
Yep.
he had somebody else doing it.
Yeah, him and Kana. They teach it, and we were fortunate to have those guys come out when we were teaching a course this was back in April. So a part of the Rincon Water Safety is to have a lifeguarding system.
Yeah.
So our mission is not only creating safety on our beaches by, like, we give monthly safety seminars, ocean safety seminars, teaching CPR, teaching, blood control, teaching AEDs, how to use AEDs. So not only doing that, but the main mission is to get lifeguards on our beach, to get a program going on our beach. And there's a good friend of mine, Chapa, who is Chaparro, who is the president of Sea Grant. And he has been working for 30 years trying to get a lifeguarding program in Puerto Rico. 30 years. And the government they just don't think that there's a need for it. But meanwhile, annually, we have an average of 30 to 40 drownings, and that's just what's recorded. 30 to 40 drownings every year.
Wow.
And one of the main beaches, one of the most dangerous beaches, because Chapa just sent me a bunch of info on it, and so I was going through all the facts and statistics and everything. One of the most dangerous beaches in Puerto Rico is Hobos. They have the most incidences of drownings in Puerto Rico.
That's wild.
Yeah. And so they're right now working on getting a lifeguarding program. This Saturday, the 27th, they're having a big fundraiser on the beach. They're having bands and stuff like that to outfit the beach.
But
with
there are
lifeguards.
lifeguards in Hobos, or no? Really? Every time I've gone there, I've seen maybe on the weekend only, or
Yeah, I mean, there's some locals that will guard, but an actual program, they don't have an actual program at all there. Yeah, but they've got some great lifeguards.
And why that beach? You think it's just so many people are
it's-
trying to surf there that don't know how to surf, or it's
No,
just
no, it's not the surfers.
swimming.
It's the swimmers, and so and the locals. So, spit out another fact.
Well, it looks very inviting there.
It is.
Right?
It's all like protected.
Shallow. It's got
Yep.
it's got a rock there. It's like waist deep, but there's this big
That
rip, right?
Yep. And that's that rip. So you got that little sandbar,
Which is
that's
great for
right in the
surfers because
middle.
it just takes you right back out to the wave.
Exactly. Yep. And so, but for swimmers, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, so another fact is that there is 75 to 80% of the locals, the local Puerto Ricanos, they do not know how to swim. And so
80?
80%.
Oh, really?
75 to 80% do not know how to swim. And that's a statistic also that, I read about Puerto Rico. And so there's so many variables that are screaming to our government, please have a lifeguard program. And also, let's do a junior lifeguard program.
Yeah.
Like give the kids, all the local kids, a reason to want to protect their beaches.
Yeah.
Because they want to anyways.
Yeah.
So let's give them a reason. Let's teach them the proper techniques. Let's give them something to strive
and
for.
something to be proud of, right?
Yes. I mean, 100%. To be proud of protecting your own beach.
Yeah.
They would love it. It would be huge here.
A lifeguard is something that you look up to. You're like, man, that is someone that knows their shit in the
Yes.
water. They're powerful swimmers. They're strong. They're fit. They're knowledgeable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, whenever you
It's a full package.
go to anywhere where there's a lifeguard, you're like, oh, that person's there to protect me. Right? It's
Exactly.
not like law enforcement. Some people look at law enforcement, they're like,
Yeah.
are they here to protect me? Or like
Yeah.
they're kind of like, But a
Yeah.
lifeguard is like, they're solely there to protect you and,
Yes.
and tell people not to foil in places in Australia.
Yes, right?
No, but
That's
I mean,
true.
for the swimmers, yeah.
Yes,
And
but-
I've talked about it. I guess I talked about it with Sean once, and I've brought it up that in Hawaii it's such a thing, right? Like these lifeguards, they're like this powerful force, and it's
They
just
are a force.
right, and
Yes.
they're just so passionate about what they do, and they are the best of the best.
Yes.
And they're just like feels like that team is they're bred for it. You know?
Yes, they
And it's-
are.
And it when you see them, I only know them from like looking at the web or what they
Yeah.
do and how they do it. You're like, they look like, wow, that's
Yeah.
intimidating. They're
It is.
so
It is. They're like a human Aquaman. Like you look at them honestly, and every one of them are in insane shape. I mean, because the bottom line is we're not built to swim underwater, and so when you're going into an environment that can kill you and that kills people all the time,
yeah.
you have got to be on your game, because Mother Nature will slap you down. And we know that very well because
Yeah.
we've all been in situations where, we were literally praying, exactly, knock on wood. But we've, it's like a motorcycle rider. It's not when you're going to have a wreck. It's when.
yeah.
It's not if you're going to have a wreck. It's when. But as watermen, we've all been there, it happens. And so this is why my mission and my passion with Rincon Water Safety is to teach as many people out there who do not know much about the ocean, the basics, what to do, and then those that do know, just a few extra tools to put in their tool belt. And
Yeah.
so when I got involved with Bragg back in 2018, the first Bragg course that Otto and Jorge Quintana brought to Puerto Rico, they needed somebody to help with the apnea portion. Mm-hmm. And back then, they were actually doing static apnea in a pool. And so, which we would have like, normally whenever you do a static apnea, when you're teaching people how to hold their breath in a pool, you normally do it with like 6 people to 1 instructor, for example. We had like 60 to like 3 of us. And
That's
we realized it was a lot. It's a lot to control.
Yeah.
And so we realized after that was a little much. And so that's when basically Greg Long took over, and he calls it more, it's a breathwork class that he does now. And it's more, there's no in water. If you want to go further and enhance your skills, then you can go and, FII, that's what we've taught for years out of my dive shop through Joe Sheridan, who's a FII instructor. He has the watermansurvival.com. And so probably
he does that in Rincon.
He does
still,
it in Rincon.
Right?
Yep. And so we did it. We started it basically just a fluke. He just came down about 12 years ago and pretty much was like, hey, Carson, I want to go spearfishing. Took him out spearfishing. He's like, hey, man, I can tell that you're a good free diver. You know what you're doing, but there's a few little techniques that'll make you better. And he's like, I'm a FI instructor, and I teach this course.
What's FII?
FII is Freediving Instructors International.
Okay.
And it's probably the number one. There's a few of them, of course, but it's Martin Stepanek is the actual founder of it. He holds literally, I think something, or he did hold somewhere in like the 50 amount of records in freediving range. I could be off by 25, but he's the man when it comes to freediving.
Does he foil?
I don't know if he foils.
Okay, I had to throw in a foil question in here somewhere,
right?
Just to make sure.
Make sure we're not getting off track.
I'm just
I
messing
like
with
that,
you.
Dylan. So, anyways, FI course, Joe Sheridan.
And
he's
he was
like,
giving
I teach
you
this
some
course.
tips.
Yeah, he's like, I teach this course, and I go, how many people you need? He goes, well, we do 10 to 12 people. I can make one phone call and get 10 to 12 people that'll take it right now. And he's like, well, let's plan it. So we did the first course with my core, big wave surf buddies and everything. And then it just, then there was a countless amount of people that were calling me going, Carson, why didn't you tell me about this course? So then we did another one. So anyways, now it's been going on for about 12 plus years.
That's cool.
And hundreds and hundreds of students. And so I highly, highly recommend that course. It's a really good, it complements brag. So brag is a lot about, the brag course is a lot about working together as a team, and what to do with always make sure that you have a team whenever you're going out into surf, and then just, scenarios.
Just being aware and
just being
more
aware.
conscious of like what you're doing and what's going on around you.
Exactly. You
and
took
how
the
to
course,
react.
so and how to like basically itemize each, you got I assist, identify, and then assess, and then control, and then implement, and then supervise, and how to just go through that acronym every single minute that you're out there, how to breathe when you're surfing, which is very important. Yeah. Like there's so many people, there's people that don't even know how to breathe properly. Yeah. And the majority of the people don't.
Yeah. I think it's cool, like everything that you want to do, and the safety in the water, and, trying to reach more people. Mm-hmm. It's really like what Bragg does is it kind of goes through the surfers, and the surfers are always in the water, right? Like at Hobos.
Yeah.
Everybody, was aware of what's going on and always there and always ready.
And they're usually the first responders.
They are, right?
Yeah.
They exactly are. They are the lifeguards.
99% of the time.
The unassigned lifeguards of the beach. Yeah.
But a lot of them don't know how to use an AED.
Right.
A lot of them aren't trained in CPR. Yeah. The instructors, the surf instructors, they have to be. Yeah. So those guys are, but just the regular, your next door neighbor who's out surfing all the time, maybe he's not. Yeah. And so that's who I'm trying to reach, trying to reach those. And then also I tell you how many people in these courses that I take that are literally like 60 to 70-year-olds who are just neighbors who walk the beach every single morning. And they're like usually one of the first ones that sees a problem in the water, and they don't know what to do. Yeah. First thing they do, if they have their phone on them, is they call 911. 911 here takes
that's too
a
late.
minute. Yeah. I mean, it's anytime, and I've called 911, unfortunately, a lot, and it's usually about 45 minutes for an ambulance to actually show up. Who does show up first almost every time is OMME, the Emergency Management
Yeah.
Edition of Puerto Rico. It's Rescate.
Yeah.
And they're usually the first ones on the scene. However, they don't have any real in-water training. I mean, they usually show up with boots and
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they're ready to attack
I've seen
something.
it. We've called before, and they show up to Ocean Park, and then you're like, they show up, and you're like, I mean, no one's gonna go in the water. You
No.
know? Luckily, we've been there, and we've pulled people out of the water. And
Exactly.
We've had to do that in Ocean Park, and
is that we don't have anybody that can actually jump in the water like a lifeguard.
yeah.
You
Well,
know,
it's
like-
scary, you know.
Yeah,
like
it's scary because you're at your own risk.
I go through these trainings. I've been in the water. I'm a waterman, and when somebody's in trouble, it's like, you know, it's like survival mode
It
for
is.
everybody.
Yeah, for
in
everybody.
that moment, you know.
Because they always say, what's worse than one victim?
Yeah.
2 victims.
Yeah.
And so you always have to be very
100%.
careful about the situation that you are going to put yourself in to save another life.
Yeah.
You know,
That could be worse.
it
Yeah.
could be worse. And normally, a lot of times, especially with family members, when the kids are struggling, who ends up surviving and who ends up drowning?
Yeah, the kids and the
Kid
parents.
makes it
yeah.
out, and the father
Yeah.
or the mother is the ones that they sacrifice.
Yeah.
And-
I talked to, you know, Roy.
Of course.
So Roy, he just told me this scenario he had with his kids, that they were swimming, they were just by the rocks and Kikita, whatever, and then all of a sudden this wave just swept them away. And they're out there, and he's like, holy shit. So he's an athlete, you
Yeah.
know? He's a great swimmer. He does everything. He's like really great in the water.
Yeah.
He's fit.
Yeah.
He goes into the water, it's his kids, and he just like doesn't even know how to swim anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And all of them almost drowned, you
Yeah.
know, because he just didn't know what to do or how to do it, and he was just acting out of emotion to his kids. And
Yeah, because you
they were-
freak out because
yeah.
they're your kids.
yeah, and then he's like,
And
and
so-
he got himself in trouble.
Yeah,
and-
exactly. And that happens. That's probably one of the main causes.
yeah,
And so this is why another program that we did in Rincon is we put in all the main beaches that have a lot of activity as far as tourists or just, you know, people visiting the beach and are known for rips. We put posts up, and on all the posts are torpedoes,
Yeah.
are flotation devices, lifeguard flotation torpedoes. And I can't tell you, we put them up last February. March was insane. I was getting videos and photos and
No way.
and text messages of the amount of people that were saved by these things.
damn,
So the problem is you panic, you
Yeah.
jump in the water
with nothing.
with nothing. You have no way to float. Try grabbing one person, much less 2 people, because at least with one person, you can overhand grab them, you can use one arm and scissor kick and pull them back to shore by one arm. You got 2 people, you're
there's
trying
no
to egg beater, you know, and it just doesn't happen. And also in Puerto Rico, a lot of these beaches, you know, they drop right off. They have like the little drop like right off the beach.
Yeah.
And so they drop right off. And this is where everybody gets in trouble because they're all wading around in waist to knee deep of water. And all of a sudden, you know, something happens and they go literally 5 feet off of the shoreline, and there'll be just like a little channel, you know, where the water is running parallel to the beach.
Yeah.
And it's over their head. And they just panic. And instead of like working your way back to the shoreline, which is literally where the camera is right here.
Yeah.
You know? So
I mean,
it's
I've
just,
seen it. Yeah.
it's trying to give just anybody that spends time on the beach, like I was saying earlier about the 60, 70-year-olds, like I'm telling you, the majority of these courses, these seminars that I've been giving lately is older people who walk the beach every morning, and they have seen it and they don't know what to do, and they freak out. They call 911. By that time, the person's they're drowned, and the ambulance shows up and is taking away, you know, a dead body. And so, also what we put on these posts are whistles. So there's a whistle on the post, and so I teach. I'm like, just scream help. Because if anybody around the beach has got a surfboard, can help this person.
Yeah.
And even with the torpedoes that we put on the beaches, if you don't know how to swim, I don't want you going out there to try and save somebody, even with a flotation device. So throw it to them. And if usually they're caught in a rip, right? So the rip, normally people, they look at a rip. So you see waves coming in here, you see waves coming in here, and in between you see this nice, flat, calm area. And people are just like, oh, that's where I swim. Look how calm it is. It's waves over here, waves over there, and they jump in the water, and they're never looking at shore. They're always looking out to sea.
And then they don't realize.
And they don't realize they're getting sucked out. All of a sudden they turn around, and they're 50 feet from shore, and they panic, and they start swimming back to shore. And they're like, I'm in the calm water. Why am I keep going out? And all they have to do is swim right over to the waves and just ride the waves right into the shoreline.
Yeah.
But they don't. They panic. They don't know what to do. And so if you just throw one of these, safety torpedoes in the rip, it'll get to them. It'll get ripped out to them. And then they can just grab it.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, they're like, well, I don't know how to swim. I don't know how to save somebody, I don't, and I go, just throw the thing in the water.
Yeah.
Just to give them.
It's shaped like a football for a reason.
Exactly. It'll cut right through, So
Yeah.
it's hydrodynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so little things like that.
Just awareness, right?
Yes.
And just trying to get the message across. And
Yes. If someone's screaming help in the water, then you start screaming help. And somebody's going to hear you. Blow the whistle. Like the whistles were blown all the time. And I can't tell you how many people were like going, oh my God, I heard this whistle just going off on the beach. I knew something was happening. I ran to the beach with my surfboard. Sure enough, 2 people were swept out and drowning. And I saved them because I heard a whistle.
Yeah. That's cool.
Just do something, scream for help, blow a whistle if you got one. If you're walking the beach, and you walk the beach every morning, why not wear a whistle around your neck?
Yeah.
Simple. Put it in your pocket. It's literally the size of a quarter.
Yeah.
Just put it in your pocket. Walk with a whistle. Because if you blow that whistle hard enough, somebody somewhere is going to hear it and go, that's emergency. There's something going on, man. And they may come running down to the beach with a surfboard and save someone's life.
Someone will be like, can you shut that person up?
True. But
so if you guys are going to watch the YouTube version of this, because I do it audio and I do a YouTube version, we'll do it at the end. I think it's better. We'll just calmly do the whole, the CPR, show the AED, and do like a little sequence, and I'll just cut it into the YouTube video. So if you guys are not watching the YouTube, then go to the YouTube and we'll have a segment of how to use this equipment, and so you're more aware. You know how to do CPR, and if you're interested, maybe you can help a local foiler, surfer, or swimmer, when you're out in the water.
That's exactly
and that's
right.
all. That's really all your mission is, just so everybody's just more aware of situations, how to help, and the more people that are aware, we're all just there to help each other, right?
Yeah, I mean, we call that community responders.
Yeah.
And so
that's what we need here in Puerto Rico.
Yes, because we don't have a lifeguarding system. And so until we do have a lifeguarding system, it doesn't even matter anyways, because the lifeguards have hours.
Yeah.
Lifeguards are usually on duty from 9 in the morning till 5 in the evening. How many times, I can't tell you how many times something is happening at sunset and sunrise.
Yeah.
And so the more community responders that we have out there, then the safer our beaches are going to be in Puerto Rico. And this has been the first year that we have not had a drowning in Puerto Rico. And we started this exactly a year ago. Actually, a little low. We started last April. There was a good friend of mine. I found she drowned surfing, Tony Lopez, and I found her and pulled her out of the water. And after that, I just was like, that's it. I've had enough. And then I found some others, over the years, and we started an AED program about 5 years ago.
That was the first thing, right?
That was the first thing that we started. So we had a local, and I think he got hit in the head by an errant surfboard, and he drowned, and nobody really knew what to do. And so I wasn't there, but I heard all about it. And so I got a call, can you please give impromptu little ocean safety course. So we did, and we ended up having, about 50, 60 locals show up and gave a little course. And then people were like, well, what can we do? And I said, well, one thing is we can put some AEDs around the businesses on the beaches.
Yeah.
And so we started a GoFundMe program and ended up, at that time, I bought like 6 AEDs and just put them in, a few strategic places on the beach, at Maria's, a few over on Sandy Beach. Sandy Beach is the worst beach in Rincon. It has the most rips, Sandy Beach does, right there by the Tambu. Like right there at the Tambu, that whole area, there's 3 distinct rips right there. And so that's actually where we're working to put our first lifeguard stand. So we've got everything set.
This is going to be a private program then.
It's going to be a private program. It's running through. So Rincon Water Safety is now a nonprofit. It's a 501c3 and started a year ago, April. And our mission, not only to get more AEDs, now we have 17 AEDs on the beaches in Rincon.
That's wild.
And then I went up and taught a little water safety seminar at Hobos, and I donated an AED to them. So Hobos has an AED now. And then I got a call to go to Luquillo and give a seminar in Luquillo. And that was where I had the majority of the course was like older, beach goers.
Yeah.
And that's
walking up
like,
and down the Malecon
yes. And they were just like, now we know what to do. Now we feel empowered. And so they are starting a
Give
whole
them a
program.
reason to go walk in the morning,
Right? Exactly. Save somebody. I love it. So Rincon Water Safety started out of necessity. And then we've been very blessed and grateful through GoFundMe to already have a pretty good chunk of money to get everything started. And then we've actually got donors like Rincon Rum, the owner of Rincon Rum, is a good friend. He has a wood shop. He's like, how many chairs you need, Carson? How many beach chairs you need for the lifeguards? And I was like, well, let's start with one. And he's like, you got it. It's sitting in his wood shop for months waiting for our insurance to go through.
Yeah.
And we're working hand in hand with Albert Lash, who owns Road to Happiness. He's a surf instructor, surf school on Sandy Beach, right at the most dangerous spot at Sandy Beach. There's that little bagon that he has there. And so Albert has been working with us since day one. And so through him, we're going to start the first lifeguarding program right there where his concession is right there. And that's happening soon.
That's nice.
Yeah. And
Yeah, because I know most of these hotels and like in Condado, there was a ton of drownings at one point there because there's just no surfers. Everyone's just hanging out at the beach goers, and it can get pretty rough in the winter.
Yeah.
And none of the hotels want to put up a lifeguard stand because nobody wants to be liable. They definitely want their guests to be safe, but it's not only their guests. And then if something happens, they're like, there's somewhere to point a finger, and that's where the government needs to come in, right? So that's why it's interesting that you're a private group. I guess there's, you have to be a nonprofit, or I don't know what the logistics for that are, but there's a liability thing that's,
and that's
why people are scared off of it, right?
Yep. So now we're getting insurance.
Yeah.
And so that's number one. That's your main objective.
Yeah.
And so that's happening now. And once we have that, then we've already got guards that are ready to jump in the chair.
Nice.
And so, like I was saying earlier, we had a training seminar. Basically, the board of directors with myself as 2 other lifeguards who live in Rincon half the year, and then they guard the other half the year. One is up in Bobby Bechtel is up in Margate, Atlantic City, and he's been a guard for about 24 years, and he teaches it also, and then
he's a foiler.
He's a foiler. He's a big foiler. You know Bobby. Exactly. Yeah. And he's like my foil buddy. I don't have a whole lot. There's not too many foilers in Rincon. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's
actually,
basically, it's, Adrian, Craig, Bobby, and myself.
just
And-
core surfers. You know?
Hardcore surfers.
Yeah.
And I can't change. My friends have like tried and they gone out and just,
You
I
got to
don't
show
know.
them.
Yeah, I've tried. I want, right now it's basically Adrian and I, because Bobby's in the States guarding.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty much Adrian and I. And usually Craig is around too, but he hadn't been around. And so it's pretty much Adrian and I, winging as much as we can right now, foiling as much as we can. And but then my other board member, who's wealth of knowledge, he's been a guard for over 30 years up in Montauk, John McGeehan. And he's my neighbor. He lives right across the street from me in Rincon. And so with those guys, we taught a little lifeguarding program, little 3-day program. Fortunate enough to have like Wilfredo, Augusto, and Kana show up and do, their portion of it, because those guys have been teaching guarding here in Puerto Rico for like 20 years. They've been teaching it. And so they're the guys that I'm sure probably came and taught your guys to teach the Red Cross. And then I've got Pepe Garcia, he's on the board. He's the one who did La Bruja, the surf movie, one of the first surf movies in Puerto Rico called La Bruja. Oh, you got to watch it. Yeah. It's classic. So he was involved with making that movie.
Nice.
This was back in the 90s. And then Pepe owns Stoked. He has Stoked coffee shop right there at Maria's. So Pepe got on board, and he's been working hand in hand with Chapa for years.
Safest place to be in the water is Rincon.
Right? Yeah. Knock on wood. We hope so.
Right.
And it's spreading.
Yeah.
And that's just what we're trying to do.
You got to start somewhere, right?
You got to start somewhere, and we kind of figured might as well start in Rincon.
Well,
And
right in your backyard.
yeah, in my backyard. And so, and spreading out, and just through what we're doing, we're hoping that, once this works by this winter, it will be moving. We will have a guard sitting in chairs on the beach. We're starting with Sandy Beach first, and then we're going to move over to like to Domes, and then to Maria's. And those are like the three most like dangerous.
Spots, yeah.
But they're not dangerous if you have guards there.
Yeah.
If you have prevention, and we've been putting signs. I've got AEDs on all those beaches now. I have signs on those beaches now that myself, along with locals, there's a lot of locals that are involved also, helping a lot. But then I've got, like Pepe, and then I've got a good friend of mine, Stephanie Flo, who's been the one instrumental in just getting the business side. She's a CPA. She's getting everything together. And thank God I've had her, because 4 or 5 years ago, I tried to do it by myself, and it just can't get it. Just can't get traction.
Yeah.
Now that I've got a team, it's working. And then all the local boys, all the crew that are with the Tres Palmas crew, all of those guys are on board, the Miguel Canals and Ramses and Kahuna and Alexis and Tomas, and that whole crew, they've all been super instrumental in helping get it going. And so it's it's been a team effort, and it's brought the community together.
Nice.
And like I said, we haven't had, knock on wood, we haven't had one drowning this year. And so
that's good.
With guards next year, that could change the whole equation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That you've, it's ambitious, but it's necessary.
It's necessary.
And you see the cause and the good for it, and so there's a lot of good momentum there.
Yes, there is.
Nice.
And who doesn't want to get on board? And then there's people that have friends.
Well,
and family.
when you talk about it, then I'm like, I'm like, well, let me know how I can help, you know, right? Because why not want to be
Get
part
involved.
of that?
Yeah, because
right?
you're a waterman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
this is
the more people around that can help, and you know, the safer it is for me, you know, for everybody. So
that's what's beautiful about Bragg. That's the beauty of Bragg. You know, Bragg coming here started that.
yeah.
2018, that's what basically kickstarted my whole mission in Rincon, was being involved with Bragg. They got me involved with the first summit, and then every one of them since then I've been involved with. And then now I've been fortunate to help instruct, and I've been traveling around and instructing with Bragg now.
Yeah, you guys do a good job of like making us feel useless.
Yeah.
like before we get there, you're like, what are you doing? We're like, well, I'm just taking my board and going surfing. You're like,
Yeah.
That's
What's wrong
dangerous.
with you, man? Yeah, exactly. But you know, I mean,
feeling
surfing,
ill prepared, right? And you're
Yeah.
like, oh wow, there's like, you know, until it happens, and then you're like, holy crap, I'm just like throwing my life to the wind here.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
it's like it's all good till it ain't.
yeah,
And I mean, surfers in general, we're lone wolves.
yeah,
You know, like how many times our Misto session is, you know, I can't tell you, probably the majority of the times I talk about Tres Palmas is those evenings where I was out there by myself,
yeah,
all by myself. And when I look back on it, I mean, now, you know, I'm wearing flotation, you know, now I'm like, you know, wearing flotation, wearing, you know, helmets, wearing, you know, everything that I can that will at least, you know, help me if something does go wrong. And, but naturally there's nothing better than having a buddy.
yeah, for sure.
And so buddy teams are so important. And so, Bragg is, you know.
Yeah, it's hard when we're foiling around.
Mm-hmm.
We cover so much, like in a certain area, we cover so much ground, you know. And I didn't see Arlen for 5-6 minutes. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, where's, like, you know, he's over there. I'm over here, and I'm like, oh, there he is. I'm like, 6 minutes is a long time. Like,
Yeah, it is a
something-
long time,
Like,
especially when you're used to they're right next to you.
yeah,
And you can turn your head and they're right there.
yeah,
5 minutes is eternity.
yeah. That's why, like, sometimes I'm like, for minutes at a time, I'm not aware of where, you know,
Because you're in your
where
own
my
world.
buddy is.
Yeah, you're focusing on your, you know, you're having a blast,
Yeah.
man. How many times, you know, that we're doing just downwinders, and we just go out with nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and we're just like, okay, let's go do 10 miles and just wing it, literally. You know, now I think through the process, at least I'm like, okay, let's have, you know, I'm going to tell somebody I'm doing it at least, you know, like, hey, I'm going out. That's where I'm going, you know.
Yeah, I
If
mean,
I can, I'll have my phone on me.
Yeah.
I have an iWatch. I bought an iWatch for that reason.
yeah,
You know, those little details, those tools in our toolbox that we actually need that we never really thought about before, because we're like, dude, we're one with the ocean, man. Nothing's going to happen to me. I always said the 3 I's. I grew up with the 3 I's. I was invincible, invisible, and indestructible until you're not.
yeah,
And as many like happenstances that's happened to me in the ocean, as many times as I'm in the ocean.
well, you've spent
diving,
a lot of time, right? Diving as well.
yeah,
Like,
on boats. I run
Yeah.
boats all the time.
Yeah.
The amount of stuff that's happened to me on boats, I've had multiple deaths, you know, with my hands doing CPR on people. And it literally happens in the blink of an eye.
yeah,
Everything is the best day on the planet. And then you hear a scream and you're just like, that doesn't sound good.
yeah.
Now,
There's this kiter, I can't remember his name, Lucas or something, and he was in Turks and Caicos snorkeling. He was on a podcast. It's called the 365 Kite Surf Podcast.
Yeah.
He's a kiter, pro kiter for Cabrina, snorkeling in Turks and Caicos, and a shark, you know, bit his leg off, you know? And he's like, you know, the whole lead up to the day and everything and being in the water, everything was so normal. But what's really crazy is what happens, you know, after that moment that he got attacked, what happens in sequence to keep him alive, right? And how everything just miraculously went right.
Yeah.
for him. And he was super lucky and fortunate that it was like, you know, that they were able to tie him off, that they were able to like, the boat was there in 5 seconds, that when he arrived there was a doctor on the dock with a tourniquet, like, you know, and
Yes.
then the ambulance was on site like 10 minutes later, and that, like, just all of those sequences. And if it wasn't within 5-6 minutes, it could have cost him his life.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
It, you know,
these
it,
se-
it
that
makes
how
you
these
believe
scenarios
in guardian angels.
Yeah.
It does. Full like belief in guardian angels. It's happened, stuff like that's happened to me where I'm just like, there's no way that that could have, each one of those sequences could have actually happened unless there was divine intervention,
Yeah.
you know? And so with that, it's also, there's a saying that, you know, there's no atheist on the ocean. There's no atheist on the ocean. Like, you will find a higher
Oh, yeah,
power.
yeah.
If you've been in it, you know, if shit's hitting the fan,
You're asking somebody.
You're asking somebody, higher power, you know, to help. And so I love that saying, there's no atheist on the ocean.
Yeah.
You know, it's preparation.
Yeah.
It's the 7 P's. Prior proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. and it's
a mouthful.
Yeah, and it's so true. It's just preparation. And Bragg, you know, Bragg has not just so much taught me, because I've kind of grown up with preparing, being a boat captain and a dive instructor and, you know, everything else. I've always kind of had to have an acronym of preparation before you go out in the ocean.
Yeah.
You just learn through, you know, a lot of circumstantial events, but Bragg is hammering it home.
Yeah.
And Bragg is actually teaching it to the masses. And so with that,
Yeah. Very cool program.
it's an awesome program.
Great people.
Great people, just everybody involved. I was just in Hawaii. So to answer your question, I did Kona, Maui, and Oahu.
Mm-hmm.
And so on Oahu, I was staying with Uncle Pat and Keaka, who's 2 of the, you know, lead instructors for Bragg, and got to actually go and hang out with Uncle Pat and Uncle Brian, Kealana, and that crew. And it's just, you know, just being there in their neighborhood and having them taking me out. Like they took me out tow foiling 1 or 2 days in a row. We had like a 6 foot at 15-second south swell.
Whoa.
So China Walls was just
That's
firing.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was out there with, you know, with the elite, you know, taking me out, tow foiling China Walls. And it was like double overhead and just this long left. It's just the perfect, and the surfers, you know, when you're surfing it up against the cliff.
Yeah.
And then when you're foiling it, you're so far away from the surfers that you're not even,
matter, yeah.
yeah, it doesn't even matter. You're not even involved.
That's
And
cool.
so that was a unbelievable experience. And then get to surf all those outer reefs out there.
That's
and then
awesome.
just trekking around and seeing, you know, the different beaches, like Sandy Beach. Like Sandy Beach is a crazy, when there's a solid swell, that is a crazy beach break. And these guys are just body surfing it like it's, you know, like it's their little home, you know, like chest high beach break. And it's like, it's literally beaches like that. It was like that big.
That's
The day that
insane.
we were there. It was insane. And so then that's when you really have respect for those guards. Those lifeguards there are like on it, you know? And they even have signs. It's at Big Beach in Maui. They actually have a sign that says, this is the #1 neck injury beach in the entire United States.
Yeah.
And I was swimming it with Art. Art and I went in and swam it, and there was a solid, you know, swell that was hitting that, and it would just be flat, and then you'd get in, and all of a sudden this set would come in, and you're just like, what? Like you're swimming under it going,
Holy
what?
shit.
Yeah, there's no way I'm gonna body surf that. That's why there's a sign up there that says that this is the #1 neck injury, you know,
Yeah.
like, and Art was telling me, he's like going, yeah, more people die or, you know, paralyzed right here on this beach.
That's wild.
And so it's pretty wild. And that's why those guards are such, such crazy watermen.
Yeah.
Because they're dealing with heavy
They've
water.
got to. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we have it here too.
No, for sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
we have very heavy water here. Drops off deep, right out
I mean,
here.
that's why you got to start with the kids, and then build it up from there, and then generationally it'll start to fill in, and there's just going to be this proudness of being there to guard the water, And I think there's something missing there. That's all.
Yes. Right. And it's protecting their own beach.
Yeah.
It's the pride of like, I grew up on this beach and now I get to work this beach. I get to make money.
Yeah.
Like that's like huge. Like, hey, I can make a career out of, protecting one of my beaches, one of my natural resources that has given me so much pleasure in life.
Yeah.
I can actually make a career out of this.
Yeah.
And teach, everybody else around me how to do it and protect people.
Yeah.
Like that's just like a trait that who wouldn't love to be able to do that?
Yeah.
And so hopefully that culture, we can change it a little bit, and start, programs that'll actually, protect our beaches and,
Yeah.
create safety
stick.
on our beaches. And so that's, it's got to start somewhere. And like when I heard Choppa's a beast. I don't know if you've ever met Choppa before.
I don't think so.
He's involved in the water and protecting everything. But he's been trying to get lifeguarding going for 30 years, and
Yeah,
he
that's
just
wild.
every time it just gets shut down. So I'm like, let's just try it with a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And so 501c3, and we're just working right now on trying to get donors, trying to find donations, because eventually when we get these lifeguards in the stand, we're the ones paying their salaries. And so, and nobody wants to, go out and work for peanuts. And
No.
I mean, people do, they'll volunteer.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Well,
that's still, I want to start a
That's when
career.
it starts to fall apart.
It does. You're like, okay, people, they work it for a while and they're like, okay, I can't work 8 hours a day,
Yeah.
Sitting in a chair and not getting paid anything.
Or the chair falls apart, and then they have no shade, and then their tools aren't working right, and then that's where it all starts to go
That's
downhill.
exactly right. And then it just goes downhill.
That's where it has to like continuously grow.
Yep.
For it to
and
work
it's
out.
It's like I have budgets and everything. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, no, for sure.
If we were going to do 3 stands you need a minimum of around 5 guards a stand, for shifts and everything. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And then you got to have administrators. You got to have, you've got to have,
Someone's got to donate their time.
yeah,
Like
somebody's
you,
gotta-
sir.
Exactly. Yeah. So
You're not cheap, but here you are.
yeah, but we're donating our
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And but it's going to happen. That's the
Yeah.
beauty of it. It's no longer a wish or a vision, or it's happening.
Yeah, that's
it's
cool.
like we're in it, and so it's pretty.
Congratulations.
Cool. Thank
Well,
you. Yeah,
and
thank
you.
you.
Yeah. For helping out and doing that. So that's
Yeah,
super cool.
yeah.
Then I want to talk to you about foiling.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Yes. and where, kind of where I got started.
So you were talking like earlier on. You said that you had GoFoils and you were working with them early on.
Yeah. So
No one. I've had a bunch of people on the podcast. No one mentioned you. No one mentioned
Yeah.
GoFoil in the early days.
I don't know why. Yeah.
You're
But,
too far over on the West Coast. Or
I am.
something.
I'm kind of out of sight, out of mind, which is good.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's when you said there's only like 3 foilers in Rincon right now.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
It's wild.
It should
Yeah.
be blowing up over there, but they're
I
just
thought it was gonna blow
hardcore
up.
surfers.
It is, and believe me, I've tried to get my buddies into it, and there's a few of my some of my tow buddies, and like Tomas got into it, and Craig got into it, and there's a handful of people that got into it, but they just never really got into it. Like they didn't go down the rabbit hole like I did.
Yeah.
And,
like all of us did
Yeah,
and do.
yeah, and
What do you think it is? It's an expense thing, or it's that there's too much to do in the water over there versus, because I feel like most of us get into foiling and get so addicted because of the desperation and then the amount of sessions and water time that the foil can actually give us. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I think there's some that just there's some of my buddies that they just didn't have the time to put into it. I think they had time to put into it, but they just didn't fully commit.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you. They'll
Are
be the
these
first
surfers?
ones. Surfers.
Yeah, and they're
then-
good surfers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And-
so
and-
that's wise.
yeah. And they're like,
It's
oh,
hard to
surf, I'm
suck at
surfing."
something.
Yeah. And it is. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Like, believe me, you know, I sucked at it for a long time. And I still have some sucky days, like we all do.
Yes.
We're still, you know,
Still learning.
cremosos.
Yeah.
And so I think the learning curve is just a lot greater than a lot of people feel like putting time into. And for me, I kind of love the challenge.
Yeah.
I love being, you know, a Grom. I love learning new things.
Yeah.
Like, you know, surfing was one thing, and believe me, surfing is always my first passion.
Yeah.
I'm always going to be a shortboarder. But then I saw this stand-up paddle thing going on with Laird, and I was just like, wait. And I see him like paddling into big waves, and I'm like, wait, we can use that to get into these big waves earlier.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a tool that will benefit me to surf bigger waves and get into them quicker.
Yeah.
You know, and so
less crucial in that.
and
like,
yes,
crucial
you're already
point.
standing up.
Right.
You know, so that whole thing of like, which now when I look back on it, my whole thrill of big waves is the actual drop.
Yeah.
It's the actual getting to your feet.
Yeah.
You know, like that's like that's like when the roller coaster is dropping off on that initial drop. But
I mean, you must have some epic stories of some awesome swells over there. And
oh yeah,
what's the most predominant wave when it's big? Like Tres Palmas.
Yeah.
That's just like it's like
Yeah.
a stature, right? Like,
yeah, Trace is, yeah, Trace.
I mean, you've got the 3 palm trees on your
That's
logo
for that.
there, right?
Exactly. That was a part of it. We wanted the Trace Palms as our logo. Yeah, Trace Palm. Trace Palm. I have a love affair
Yeah.
with Tres Palmas. I mean, it's like my girlfriend, and it's like any, you know, Latina. You know, they're gonna also they got teeth, and that's what you love about them. And so Tres Palmas is like that. So yes, I have logged not only just surfing it, but, you know, diving it, snorkeling it, free diving it. You know, Tres Palmas is a special spot. There's just a quick little insert. So the world is made up of meridians, right? Mm-hmm. The world is just one big ball of energy. And so there's all these meridian spikes that are all over the world. So like most of those spikes, and you can actually go and you can detect them with a machine that there's a higher energy gradient in these areas. Like Stonehenge is one, like Machu Picchu is one, like these areas where, you know, thousands of years ago, you had these shaman that could feel that and they were in tune to it and they would find these spots in the world, and that's why they build temples there.
Yeah.
Tres Palmas is one of them. Tres Palmas has a higher energy level than everywhere around it. And so not only is it just not only is it just a special spot, but it literally has a higher magnetic energy in that area right there. And so that's why so many people, so many locals fight to protect it. That's why we try and keep it, you know
what it
it's
is.
low key. I'll tell you, back in the day with Aaron Chang, he was planning on doing a contest there, and we fought it tooth and nail. Everybody was like, no. Do you know how many people have wanted to do contests at Tres Palmas? Like, that's like the most amazing venue, you know? And no, we just fight it. Just like, I've just begged people, like, please don't even go there. Please don't even think about it. Like, that Trace is it's spiritual. It's a spiritual place.
Yeah, I can tell.
And so,
I can feel it.
yes, yeah. And so for me, yeah, I've had some amazing sessions out there. The whole paddleboarding kind of started a long time ago with, I called a buddy in Maui and I was just like, hey, what's the board Laird's using? And he goes, it's this guy, Ron House in San Clemente. Called Ron House. And I was like, Ron, I want a paddleboard and I want to surf big waves on it. He goes, I'll send you the same thing I shaped for Laird. I'm like, all right. It was a 12-footer, weighed like 40 pounds.
No way.
Yeah, it was 12 foot by 27 wide.
So ahead of his time, no?
Oh, yeah. And just single fin and thick, and it was just a spear. And my
Do you
toe
still
buddy,
have that thing?
I don't.
No?
I ended up snapping it, and I ended up fixing it, and then I ended up selling it to a buddy who he ended up selling. It's gone. I don't even know where it is.
Yeah.
But it was a big yellow one called the Big Banana. And Tomas, my tow partner, I called him up, and I was like, Tomas, I'm getting this paddleboard. You want one? He's like, before I even got out of my mouth, he's just like, hell yeah. And so we both got two of them sent down. He got a red one, I got a yellow one. And I just remember the first time we went out to Baby Trace, it was maybe, 8, 10-foot faces with this 40-foot, 12-foot log with a paddle trying to catch waves and just got annihilated. I used to say, it's like literally attaching a canoe to your leg and just getting waves pounding you and getting just ripped as fast as it was like the devil had a hold of me, ripping me through the water. And that's how I learned. This is where I learned most of my big wave techniques, because this was 2007. This was 2006. 2008 was the Holy Swell. 2006. And so this was a long time. There was not, like toe surfing had just kind of started.
Yeah.
And I was doing that. I bought Kike. I saw you had Kike on here.
Yeah.
I bought Kike's jet ski from him. A buddy of mine was renting one of his apartments from him, and I used to always come over here and hang out. And I saw you had the jet ski. I was like, "What are you doing with that?" He's like, "I want to get rid of it." He's like, "I don't want to tow surf." Dicky Villanueva took me out a couple times
Yeah.
and terrified me. And Kike,
Yeah.
and he's like, "I don't like it," and I was like, "I'll buy it." And so I got it, started tow surfing with it. And then,
Kiko you mean Kiko?
Kiko. What did I say? Kike?
Yeah.
No, Kiko.
Kiko, yeah.
Yeah, Kiko.
Same difference.
Yeah. But no, it's,
We're going to start calling him Kike now.
start something now. Kiko's going to come after me.
He's fast. He'll come
I
after
know
you
he's
real
fast,
quick.
exactly. And Kiko, sorry, I get them mixed up. Yeah, so Kiko, what's Kiko's last name?
Dalmau.
Yes, Dalmau.
Yeah.
Kiko Dalmau. And I've known him a long time. I've known him since the early 2000s. And he's a beast. He's a beast in the water, especially when it comes to wind sports.
Yeah, but he doesn't want that jet ski.
No, he didn't. He literally was just like, I don't want it. You can have it. Buy it. And I did. And I started, tow surfing Trace and everywhere around there. And then got the paddleboard, started paddling into Tres Palmas. And that was, I think, from pretty much, what everybody said, I think me and Tomas were the first two to ever start paddleboarding in Puerto Rico. So blame.
You're going to have to ask Art that.
Oh, yeah. Well, Art, I got Art into it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, Art and I, then I got Art into it. You can ask Art, yeah.
That's cool.
I was.
I mean, man, Art has come up so many times.
Well,
Like,
because
it's just-
he's
he's within this circle.
In your circle, especially, like Art has been here for so long. Art has been, he was a windsurfer, then he was a kiter, or he's a windsurfer and he's a kiter, and now he's a winger.
Yeah.
And I know,
all of
like,
it.
Art kind of got me, into kiting. Then he kind of, with another buddy of mine on the West Coast, Brian Carver, who used to have Blast, who taught me to kite. But, Art kind of got me into a lot of this stuff. But paddleboarding, I got Art into it.
Nice.
And then he ended up brought over the first foil, which was that metal
Carafino thing, yeah.
Yeah, that thing was crazy. And we took it behind my jet ski, and we were trying to, ride that thing behind my jet ski, and it was just like a bucking bronco. It was like I knew I was going to kill myself with that. It's sharp. It's like
Yeah. Did it have boots on it? No.
No.
No. You
No.
guys were strapped in.
we were just had straps on it. It was a kite board.
Yeah.
Fin.
Did you kite it first, or you guys were learning how
we
to
just
go
did
behind
it,
the ski?
did it behind the jet ski.
Yeah.
Just trying it out behind the jet ski. Art, I think Art had already kited it, but I just wanted to get behind the ski and try it out. So we started doing that, and we were trying. There's that that sideways wave right there at the marina called Bajo Blanco, and so we were trying it there, and we just almost killed ourselves. And so then, yeah.
That's
so
crazy.
then at the time, like I was competing a lot. I was doing a lot of long distance. I started with a group of friends, the Rincon Beach Boy race, which
Long distance paddling
paddling
on a
stand-up
paddleboard?
paddleboard. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so started doing a lot of that. Started the Rincon Beach Boy in Rincon at the Via Sea with a beautiful crew, and then that became huge. Like we became on the pro tour. I don't know. Rincon Beach Boy though was one of the top events. Like we had $25,000 in prize money.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we had
Good
the
sponsorship.
whole crew from Hawaii come over. We had the whole world, like all over Europe, like all the top racers in the world had to come because it
was part of the
always
tour.
went towards points.
Yeah.
And so we had 400 competitors.
Damn. How can Rincon house that many people?
I know, they were just everywhere. Yeah, we had 400 competitors. We had thousands of spectators.
Wow, that's wild.
It was a full day event.
That's so cool.
We had 3 bands. We had, and we never.
Were you
made-
one of the bands?
No. I had way too much going on that day. I was like the MC. I was like everything.
Yeah.
I wore a lot of hats in that event.
Yeah.
A lot. And I literally would be. So I would be discussing. I'd be like the course director, discussing what the course. Everybody would be on the beach, and I'd be on the
And
mic.
you were competing as well?
And I was competing.
Damn.
And I would literally be up there talking, telling everybody the
God.
course. This
You had
is
no chance.
All the rules, everything, And then I'd always, say a final prayer. And then literally it would be like I would run from the prayer straight down to the beach. Everybody's lined up because it was a water start. And everybody's lined up behind the buoy. And I'd run, jump on my board, paddle out, get right behind the buoy. And then we had actually had a conch shell. That was our starting gun. We had a buddy who would blow the conch shell, and
That's so cool.
Pichon. And Pichon would blow the conch shell, and that's how we started it every year. And I would jump on my board, paddle it, come back, and get right back on. Just like never missed a beat.
That's too much.
It was fun. It was a great event, but
Yeah, that's cool.
just kind of, it was 10 years that we did it. It was a lot. And we all own businesses and stuff like that.
Every year, 10 years in a row.
Every year, 10 years in a row. And so, yeah, it was, and we would always, we always gave to the Angelitos del Amor, which was the Down syndrome charter in Rincon, all the kids with Down syndrome. And they would, we'd give them whatever money that we had left over, which was always, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. We'd give them a check, and we'd always give them one, and we would give one to. We'd always have a second charity, and it would normally be somebody that was close to us, who was dealing with cancer or health issues or something. We would give them money to help them out also. So everything went back into the community, and I always. This was like my main objective, and I preached it all the time. I said, I want to try and keep everything in our community. Like we have all these pro racers coming down and winning, thousands of dollars, and then they leave the next day.
Yeah.
And so we started a local category also that had the same prize money. So the locals could win too, so we could keep it on island.
Nice.
And that was something that I just, it kind of went sideways like maybe one year, and then we're like, wait, we gotta, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
For the locals. So, but it was a lot, and finally after 10 years.
Paddling. So you've got a good background in there, and you said that your first time on a subfoil was
in Maui, or on a downwind.
Oh, on a downwind one. But you learned on a sup foil.
I learned on a
right?
sup foil. I was.
You should go right back to home. You should be downwinding with the sup.
Yeah, eventually I'm gonna. This
Yeah.
year I'm gonna.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm already like eyeballing the KT. I was up when I was visiting Art. I was, he lives right next to the factory, and I was picking Keith's brain. He was probably getting annoyed with me, but I was there at the factory a few times talking to the boys, and he's very available. He's right there. His whole office is right in the middle of their factory and the shop, and he's just open to talk to you about whatever.
That's wild.
Yeah, he's cool. Really
cool.
Super down to earth, super real person. And so, yeah, I'm going to get into it this year. I have to, because I have such a paddling background. And so I paddle surfed forever, competed, traveled around competing, won the
I had
Port
no
Escondido.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I won the Port Escondido Big Wave, Zicatela Beach. I won that stand-up paddle event one year, 2010. It was like 2008, 9, 10, I think 11. And that, to win that event, basically, it's just pull into a barrel and make it out. It's kind of like you got it. Yeah, it was that event in 10 was bombing. It was 15 to 20 foot Puerto. We had to paddle. Have you ever been to Puerto?
No.
So we had to paddle out all the way down in the bay, basically,
get out
and come back up. And so we had the lifeguards were running us down in quads, no leashes. You just, when you caught a wave and, straightened out or whatever, you just go to the beach. And then you get on the beach, and they would run us all the way back down to the bay to paddle back out.
Wow.
Actually up to the bay because it's north.
That's wild.
And it was big. And then I got on with Starboard. And because I competed for Puerto Rico in the first ISA event in Peru. It was the first stand-up paddle event in Peru. And so I represented Puerto Rico in that. And myself and our late, great Xavier, God bless him. And so then I got on with Starboard. And then with Starboard, they brought in GoFoil. And they were selling GoFoil as their foil.
Huh.
And
I didn't know that, actually.
And so that's how I got the first GoFoil, was through Starboard. Huh. And so I got Starboard. I put a Tuttle box in. I had to find a Tuttle box. They weren't even making them yet. They were just...
Mikey has a Starboard with a Tuttle box in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. I still have one.
He had to make it.
Yeah, we had to. I actually had, the first one I had made was by, call him the mad scientist, was by old DCB. DCB worked with Lyft, and he shaped surfboards forever.
Yeah.
He's just got the craziest surfboards, craziest designs. Like, he's an innovator.
Yeah.
Innovator. Used to surf Tres Palmas on like a 5.8 bombing trace. Yeah. Back in, the 70s and stuff. Oh, and anyway, so DCB was the first one that put a Tuttle box in a board for me. And then I had Jodan, Greg, and Charlie, Pollito. I had those guys, doing it for me. And so it was Tuttle box.
How was Starboard getting GoFoils, but they didn't have a board for it?
At the time they didn't.
It's
but they were selling the GoFoils.
They had the distribution with GoFoil.
Yeah. So it started in
That's
Hawaii.
interesting.
It started with the Baxters. It kind of started with Connor Baxter's mom and Connor Baxter. Connor Baxter is probably the most famous stand-up race. Him and Kai battle all the time, like to the M2O, stand-up racing.
I'm out of that. I have no idea.
Okay, so
I know who Kai is.
Yeah. So Kai and Connor Baxter were like the two, they won everything. Every long distance stand-up paddle race, downwind race, M2O, like these were the two, like, you know, they were leading the charge.
Yeah.
They're both the same age, grew up together, Maui boys, everything. And so then his mom, she was dealing with GoFoil, but I was kind of dealing straight with Carla, with Alex Aguirre and Carla. So in Hawaii, starboard was really big.
Yeah.
And especially with, you know, the Baxter family and everything. And so they were shipping GoFoils everywhere. And so I got my hand on, the first shipment I came with about 8.
Oh,
It was just
wow.
one. It was called Kai.
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the name of the foil.
Yeah.
And I think I bought 8. I sold them to everybody around here.
Huh.
Yeah. And Art got one or got a few. Art got a few and he gave them to buddies. And so we all kind of started with GoFoil that way. And
That's cool.
yeah. And then the GoFoil.
Yeah, I didn't know that Starboard had the distribution of
The
GoFoil
first,
with Alex, I
the first
guess.
time. Yep. The
I
very
guess they had
first
more
one.
reach, you know?
Yep.
get the
Because they were
foils out
bigger,
there.
so
Yeah.
Alex was just, you know, giving them straight to starboard, and they
Yeah.
were selling them.
Interesting.
And they were selling them a lot through
Because I
Baxter's.
kite foiled like an early on. It wasn't called GoFoil. It was an Alex Aguirre foil.
Yes.
You know, that was
right.
before GoFoil.
Yep.
And they were like race kite foil. It was kind of
Yeah.
they're kind of wild.
I bet. I can imagine.
Yeah, you still had to put them on with a mallet back in the day too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A Tuttle box.
Yeah, it was a Tuttle box.
Yep.
Yeah, the tails were the same. You know, like
Yeah.
they've got the same DNA still.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Still to this day.
Yeah.
Like I was in Maui, like hanging out with Alex and
Yeah.
at Kaha Beach, and he's there every day. He's another mad scientist.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
there every day tweaking whatever he's got.
Yeah.
He's working a lot on
Well, I mean,
foil drives.
like what an innovator from the
He is.
very
I know.
beginning.
I
You know,
exactly.
Like,
and another like the whole Maui crew, Hawaiians in general. When you're in with them, they are the most humble people on the planet. You know, and especially like that Maui crew, that Art, that his whole crew over there. I see why Art decided to stay.
Yeah.
You know, he misses a lot, you know, of Puerto Rico. And he's like, there's a lot of things in Puerto Rico I really love and I miss. He goes, but look what I got here. I'm like, yeah, you got it pretty. And you're going over there, right? I think
Yeah,
you heard
tomorrow.
You say. Tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, tomorrow night.
You're gonna see firsthand. Art's he's just got it so dialed. It's silly.
yeah.
It is so silly. He's got rental
Yeah,
vans.
I'm worried about going there because I love it here so much. You know, I mean,
yeah.
what we've got going on is
Yeah.
crazy, but it just sounds so epic to be like to think about, you know, how we do downwinders here. There's like 8 of us maybe now at the most, and we're like
Yeah.
trying to meet up with each other and shuttle each other and whatever. And just to think, like of course, right now this last week is overblown because everybody's there for these races and the Triple Crown and all of that, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's out of control.
So they're like, Gio's like, oh, I just show up at the parking lot and there's like 20 people going out, and then another 20 people going out, and another 20, like, and you just like, you're doing a run and you just run into people out in the,
yeah. Middle of the
out
ocean.
there,
Yeah.
you know, and you're like, that's so wild to
It's
think
everywhere.
like,
It's crazy, and
like
they're on every craft too. Like they're not just. It's like you just see everything. There's all these full drives is big there now,
yeah,
big. So you see all these.
everywhere. It's
Yeah,
starting to get big.
But
Yeah.
there, it's like everybody, and it's actually really cool. Like I saw it, and I'm seeing like, you know, I'm an old timer. You know, I'm 57 years
I wasn't
old.
going to say anything. So
Yeah, but I'm an old timer. You know, I'm getting there. I'm you know, I'm getting to that crest of 60, and before you blink, I'll be there. But, and it's crazy. I can't even believe that I'm even 57. Like, when I look back, I always say this. I go, I feel like I'm the age of Jesus. I feel like I'm 33. I remember my 33s very well. But I will have to say, and this is something that you can look forward to, and I know that you are on track of keeping yourself physically fit, and you know everything that you do in the ocean is you know, this is what benefits you the most.
Yeah.
As in my 50s, I have literally felt better, and I've been in better shape, and I've had less injuries than I've ever had in my life. And once again, it goes back to those 3 eyes.
you're being more careful.
I'm being more conscious
Yeah, yeah.
and careful of
Yeah.
what I do. I know my limits a lot more. I'm a risk technician, not a risk taker
Yeah.
like I used to be. I have a lot more tools in my belt that I know, how to use them, where before you just wing it and figure it out, right? And so now, like, a lot of like rolling, I roll every morning and every night. I have a roller in my living room, and I'm just on it. I wake up in the morning, I roll. I go to bed, I roll.
Yeah.
It's like
That's the problem at like 33. You just don't feel like you need it.
No.
I wake up, I can go surfing, I can go downwinding, and then before the end of the day, I realized I didn't even have one sip of water.
Yeah.
Didn't have lunch,
Yeah.
and then I'm
that's
going to bed
important.
with 2 IPAs.
Yeah. Right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the IPAs. Trust me. I love a good beer.
Yeah.
I love.
But then, yeah,
my
you
drink of
realize-
choice is a whiskey cocoa.
Okay.
I like a black con cocoa.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with that. But it's all in moderation now.
No, for sure.
And
yeah,
and so
when it
it's
starts to
like-
come to a head, you got to like.
Yeah, and you'll learn when you
Yeah.
get over. When I was 33, I was invincible, invisible, and indestructible.
Yeah.
I really was. But I
100%.
got injured a lot,
Yeah.
and then I'm out of the water, and it sucks.
Yeah, that sucks.
And so now
I rolled my ankle like
realized
a
that
week
I am-
ago,
yeah,
like it just fixing a boat or something. Just like
Yeah.
twisted my ankle, and I've been out of the water for the last like 4 days, trying
Those
to
are
make
the-
sure I'm ready for Maui.
for
You know,
Maui, because you
and
wanna
it's
be in
just and it's
tip-top
horrible.
shape.
I hate
Yeah.
being out of the water.
I hear you. I'm the same.
Yeah,
I
start to
dry
get,
up.
I start to get fat.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I
Too
don't
many
like to,
IPAs.
I don't like working out. I like
No.
I like going to the water and making that my sport. And I saw
Yes.
somebody online the other day. They're like, "Oh, kiteboarding it's not even exercise." And I'm like, I don't know. I go kiting for an hour and I feel like
Pumped.
I'm like, depends how you kite. I'm like kiting hard and
Hard.
like jumping and looping. I'm trying to like, and I'm at the end, in the morning, my abs never feel that tight. Like,
Yeah.
doing anything other than like kiting and boosting. It's just
Yeah.
like, I'm like,
And winging.
anything. Like I try to make
Winging.
everything a workout. I
Yes,
don't
I
want to
do
be
too.
lazy around and just like float.
No.
I'll do
I mean,
that
this
when
is what's
I'll
good
do that when
about-
I'm 57.
Yeah, see there? But I still do it. So this is like with my watch. So, with the water speed app, it tells you your heart rate.
Yep.
And so the whole time I'm out, when I'm wing foiling, I usually have an average heart rate of around 105 to like 117, 115. That's kind of my average.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have red line every time where I'm in the 150s.
Yeah.
I'm like 157, even up to 160. So you're doing that every single day. Like that's a muscle.
Yeah.
Like think about what you're doing,
Yeah.
and that's what's pumping oxygen to your tissues and your muscles and everything else. And that's
Yeah.
what.
Wait until you get downwinding, my friend.
I know.
Oh my God.
I know.
I did it for like a week straight, and I looked at my watch. I was like, I got to 195.
Yeah.
195, and my run was sustained for like 40 minutes at 160. Like,
Yeah. Because
for
you're
an
just
hour.
pumping.
Just
You're
pumping
just pumping.
and working, and especially at the beginning because you're learning and you're
Yeah.
pushing yourself. And for sure, there's times where I could relax a little bit more, and I
Yeah.
don't need to be that. But I mean, for sure, at one point during every session, at least I'm getting to like 180.
Wow.
Yeah,
Cranking
blowing myself
That's
up.
like like when you're winging and you can't get off the water.
Oh, yeah, that's
and
the
you're
worst.
it's the worst, and you're just
hate that.
I do too. I just was doing it yesterday. It was like, and I was just pumping. And yeah, I was like up in the 160s and just doing that. But efficiency comes into play. Like you start figuring out, the better you get at these sports, how efficient, because naturally efficiency breeds longevity.
Yeah.
And so this stuff is, I'm going to I'm going to start doing the downwinding this year. Just getting on a downwind on a Barracuda board that Art had, and it was a little too small for me. It was one of the Kalama Barracuda boards. It was like an 8.2 by like 20.
Yeah.
And it was like 100 and
118, 120, maybe.
something like that.
Yeah.
It was just too tippy. Because I'm like 220.
Yeah.
And it was just too tippy, but I still was able to manage it just because I
Yeah.
know how to stand up paddle foil, and I've done it for so long. So I was able to go out.
You'd get used to it, man. It's so fast.
Yeah.
3 days, and you're like, it's it's not narrow anymore.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
So I was
especially if-
talking to Art about it. I was talking to Keith also about it, and Art, because that's like kind of what Art uses, you know, and they were both kind of like, get 22. They're like, your sweet spot would be a 22
In the width, you mean?
width. Yeah. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
But that could change. But
I mean,
man,
you'll cycle through gear.
yeah, I know. I do now. Like I just sold all my Armstrong gear and just picked up a bunch of lift gear.
Oh, so you're back in the lift?
I'm back in the lift.
Yeah.
So I went with lift. I went GoFoil, then I went lift. Lift just didn't have that foil that I felt with towing. Great stuff with tow foiling, bigger waves.
Yeah.
Like Nick is always taking care of me when it's come to that. He's always like, Carson, try this, you know. And so for towing, definitely, I've always been on lift for towing. For like proning and stand-up paddling and stuff like that, I ended up going with Armstrong.
You know, I've talked about it with people in the shop and what I think about it, and it always comes back to, I don't really know. I'd love to talk to Nick about it, but I think he makes foils so well for himself and his skill set in that range, like that range of people that really know how to foil and like can get the juice out of it. They're really good.
Really good.
And then, you know, just like when it came into this downwinding thing, the bigger foils, they were out of necessity for them and their brand and like where to get people into the entry level stuff. But those foils weren't necessarily their best line, you know, and well, Nick's not using those foils, you know? So
No,
I think there's probably that curve of where.
But now lift has become so big.
Yeah.
Lift is so, you know, it's worldwide now.
Oh, yeah.
That he has so many
Same.
riders. He has so much feedback
Yeah.
now. So now, you know, you have the foils for bigger guys like myself.
Yep.
And I love the 150X.
Yeah, great.
Like,
That's
that
a great
thing is
foil.
Great foil. I got on that like this past year. And I was like, what? Like, this thing is amazing.
Yeah.
And then, so I got it. And then I sold, you know, my Armstrong gear. And then I got the new M2 mast. And I'm just like, it's amazing what the difference between a stiff mast and a okay mast.
Oh yeah,
It's
for sure.
amazing.
I mean, especially when you're bigger, you know,
Yes.
when you're over
'Cause
200
I'm
pounds,
I'm like this.
makes a
you
huge
know?
difference. For
Yes.
me, like between a like a really good stiff mast and like an ultra stiff mast, I have a hard time feeling like where that performance lies for me, you know, at 168 pounds, you know.
Right.
I don't know how hard I have to push it to feel this
How
wobble.
hard to like tweak
Like
it.
the Armstrong stuff, I felt the wobble. The early on, like the lift mast when I was towing. Oh my God!
Yeah.
When I was with Arlen, we were on this 36-inch or
Yeah.
whatever they had,
Yeah, that's what I have.
and I went back and forth between different brands, and I was on that with him, and I was like, man, there's something wrong with this foil, and I could feel like this.
Yeah,
I could
the
feel the
warble.
bend in it,
Yeah.
and I was like, I'm feeling a rebound, you know?
Yes. And
it's wild.
You're just so out of control. And first
Yeah.
of all, you're towing. So your speeds are so much higher and you're like, your toes are gripping the board, you know, like you literally get off the board and your toes are hurting. Like my toes would be hurting. And I'm like, something's up. So then Nick gave me another one. He's like, try this one, you know, and so now,
Yeah.
but
Huge
you know, it's like
difference.
everything is evolution.
Yeah.
And adaptation. And so, but now Nick's got a line. The lineup with Lift right now is I'm very pleased with. And I've always,
And they're coming out with some new stuff. I even saw
Yeah.
something today.
I was
I'm not
just
even going
there.
to mention it.
Yeah,
But there's
we
a
can-
new foil, a new name.
Havoc.
Even. Yeah, the Havoc.
I was just there checking it out. I literally coming
Like
here.
a 148.
They have
They probably have more.
they have a bunch.
Yeah.
They have like they have a 70. What was it? 72, a 92, a 10.
Is this released yet or no?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Today.
Oh, okay. I didn't see
And
the
I just
email.
happened to go to the shop because I got a 120 last week and it was humming. I've been on it every day this week.
Is it the new high mod one?
It's the new high mod one.
Yeah.
It's the 120 HA. And mine was humming so bad. and actually vibrating, and it was driving me nuts.
Yeah, it's probably the trailing edge.
And so I did. So I went on. I called Mikey. Mikey FaceTimed me. He's like, "This is what you got to do." So I started doing it. And took it back out. Still the same.
Mike
Went back
Leeson?
to the beach. No, Mike Vicens.
Oh, Vicente, sorry.
Mikey Vicens. And, he's another mad scientist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Mikey told me how to how to trim the edges and how to hone it and everything. So I did. And literally for 3 days I've been doing it. And I'd go back to the beach and I'd get on the beach and I'd start doing it again. And then I'd go back out and I couldn't. So I went today and I was like, and Nick was there. And I was just like, "Nick, help me out, buddy." And he's like, "Yeah, take another one."
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's awesome with that stuff,
Well, rightfully so. you
True,
know.
of course, it's
Yes,
his product.
But no, for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And he's just like, "Here, take a new one, and just let me know how it goes." And so
So you're
that's
yet
why I
to
was
try
there.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then he was like, "Have you seen the new lineup?" And I was like, "No, what you got?" He's like, "I got a whole new surf lineup. It's
Damn.
like the V3.
Oh,
It's called
shit.
Havoc."
Yeah. I
And
saw.
I went and started looking at those, and I was just like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "You got," and like, there's some of them that, yeah, they look sick. Like, and they're all those odd sizes,
yeah.
like a 72 or
Just
3.
because we need more
Yeah.
more things to.
Yeah, we need more to go down that rabbit hole, don't we?
What up?
Godzilla.
I
That
hate.
rabbit hole.
I hate trying to remember all these numbers and stuff. It's
Yeah.
too hard.
No, it is, because then you've got.
Havoc 92, 105, 121, and a 148.
I was looking at them all, and it's like Christmas. It's like Santa Claus. Just like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
And Nick's like, "Yeah, like when you're on bigger waves, this one, and I'm just like, "All right, Nick, let me have a minute to digest the 120." And then you start going with all the different tails, start throwing all these tails in there, and yeah.
all
it's
made out
just-
of high mod. Yeah, they look very surfy, for sure.
Yes, they're very surfy.
So this, I guess, this is going to replace their V2.
Yes, that's
Surf.
what it is. Yep. He said it's basically the V3,
Yeah,
and we just named
rebranded
it.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, we branded it. So,
that's cool.
but they look pretty sick. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, lift's working out for you. So that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah,
So I'm pumped.
bring it on home.
I've always, the Leesons, they've always, back in the MHL days when, Greg Jodan was shaping boards with them, and they had the first factory, some of the first race boards they came out with, they were sponsoring me.
Yeah.
And so they've always, I've been friends with Mike for, many, many moons. So I've known Mike for a long time. We've done surf trips and everything,
Nice.
And so I've always wanted to support their business.
Yeah.
And when it comes to people asking me what to buy, I'm always going just go to Lift.
Yeah.
E-foil. I've had 3 or 4 of my buddies buy the e-foils, and I've taken them up there, and like here, and they'll. What's cool is that they can go into the warehouse. They can walk through it.
Well,
They
by
s-
special request, if you're brought by Carson,
I guess maybe
they don't
yeah.
want people up in their factory.
They don't.
No,
and it's
but
funny
that-
because
but
I
they
used
are
to go.
super nice about it. Like
They really
if,
are.
Like if a client came and they're like, they have a couple e-foils and they're like fans and they
Yeah.
love Lift. I'm like, well, I could call them up and be like, hey, could you give them a tour? And they would like set a time. They'd give them a little badge and probably a hat, and show
Yeah,
them
you
around.
gotta
the
wear the
factory.
badge
like,
now. Yeah.
Like it's what an operation.
It's
crazy.
amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. It's super cool, and it's jaw dropping when you first go in there,
Yeah.
and especially as a foiler. And so some of my buddies that want to learn to foil, I'm just like, you got to get an e-foil. You want to learn to foil, just get an e-foil. You'll learn to foil, and then we'll transition into winging.
Yeah.
And we'll start winging. And so
So how is winging in the Rincon? Because the wind can be offshore, it's gusty.
Yeah.
You guys you need boat support, or you're swimming.
I started winging with, personally, I started I was like the only one winging.
You were doing lessons at some point, even,
I
or
wasn't.
no?
Never.
No. Okay.
No, I never taught it. No. I just started on Sandy Beach. I
Yeah.
just started winging on Sandy Beach, and which is the worst beach to learn on because it's just shore break from.
That's nasty.
It's nasty. And I can't tell you how many times I'm surprised that, I'm not full of stitches. But I learned on Sandy's, and then I finally got some friends that Bobby, I was starting to teach Bobby to wing.
Bobby's downwinding.
He's downwinding. He's good. Yep.
Yeah.
He's downwinding. He loves it. He's into it. And so
He almost came along with us when we did our long one from Shacks to Maria's.
yes,
I
we
called
ended
him
up,
that day.
I know, but we
when you
ended
guys
up-
went winging. right?
Well, he downwinded.
Oh, he did,
And
he
I
did.
winged.
Yeah.
I think it was Adrian. Adrian and I winged, and Bobby downwinded from Table Rock.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our run.
Yeah.
We go out off the ramp right there at Table Rock. It's like 5 miles, and come in at Domes.
That's cool.
And what's nice about right off of Domes for winging is awesome.
It's amazing.
Get all those waves standing up with all the current and everything.
Yeah.
And so we'll get to Dome. Well, you've got, Pico Piedra. You can surf and hit that. Then you've got Rivermouth, and then you've got Summit Sandies, and then you get around the corner, and then you get Domes. So we just kind of hit those spots on the way down and try and take about 2 hours. And if we went straight, we're there in 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But we just zigzag and hit all these little spots along the way. And so that's like our downwinder. But the problem is we get those afternoon clouds, and you have to watch them, because I've been stuck where we literally had to paddle the beach and walk. And so you get those clouds coming in, and they come in every afternoon, and it'll be
In summertime, especially, right?
yes. And I can't tell you how many times I've been stuck out to sea.
Damn.
And I'll
Even
see it.
knowing.
Even knowing, I'm watching them. And I'll be yelling at like Adrian.
You're
or
watching
something.
it, and then you're still getting
And
stuck.
I'm still
out
getting
to
stuck because
sea.
it's always that last run. I'm going to turn around and make one more run. And I'm just like, are you kidding me, man? Again? And then it's offshore.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
You're literally paddling. You can't even knee, you're paddling in. And, but it ain't that bad. It's actually kind of cool. Yeah, it is.
I mean, you're on this
part
like
of-
big floaty board, like with the
it's-
sail, with the flotation
It's
device.
not that big of a floaty board. It's like, well, true, but it's like 75 liters.
Yeah, yeah.
My
But it's not like a kite board or something.
no,
you know? Like,
exactly. I
fuck.
wouldn't be. You'd be swimming.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and so so we got Pico Piedra, and that's where we go a lot. But we don't have that consistent. It's very gusty, but it's great when it's blowing. Like yesterday, or the day before, I was out there and had an absolute blast.
Yeah.
We've had, it's nice because we get
finally
waves.
we've had like a couple of good weeks here
yeah, July.
of wind. Yeah.
July's always kind of the windiest month out of the year.
Is it?
Yeah, July's usually one of the windiest months out of the year. It's normally consistently July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just been a weird
Yes.
season this year,
Yes, it
for
has.
us, for the wind.
Yep, it has been, and we've had a lot of rain.
That super early hurricane.
Yeah.
That blew through the Caribbean.
Barreled through.
Yeah.
I went to the South Coast. We did a mission.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we went
I
off Guanica.
I assume
took
so.
skis all out there and trying to hit a few of these spots that
You took skis over there?
Yeah, we
Wow.
took skis, got on
So
the
it's
skis.
quite a mission.
Oh yeah, and we left at like 4 a.m. and took skis out. We ended up, there was a crazy cell that came through, and we were checking this one spot. It was Victory at Sea.
That was like at 5:30, 6 a.m. or something, no?
No, that was actually a little bit later in the morning. That was more like probably around 9, 10.
Okay, because over here in San Juan, we got hit by a 45-mile-an-hour gust for 10 minutes.
Yeah, lightning like mad. Like we were out there on skis, and we were watching the bolts hitting the water.
Holy
and
shit.
we ran straight into Copa Marine, the hotel, Copa Marine down there, and just beached them and ran up underneath the lobby. And we're hanging out in the lobby till the lightning storm, till that cell passed.
That's wild.
And then we went back out.
I know some kiters that went that way.
Yeah, there was a lot of people.
Yeah,
I was running
everyone's
into everybody. Everybody was there.
Like, we're going south.
Yeah.
Shit.
And it was just Victory at Sea. There was nothing that was really working. We checked checked everywhere. Nothing was really working. It was all victory at sea. It was a mess, but it was cool.
Yeah.
It was, it was
The
a
adventure,
recon.
you know?
Yeah, it was an adventure.
Storm chasing.
Storm chasing. Just it was gnarly out there. It was gnarly. Like we were getting beat up because we were going into it because we had to go upwind to some of the spots and just getting beat. And but man, it was fun. Yeah, that stuff is cool.
funny.
I love it. It makes you feel alive, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Just literally it's like, yeah, running with the devil.
So you had, I want to like finish it off with that segment that you guys had in Sessions, that magazine. Was it-
Yes.
It's called Sessions.
It's called Sessions.
So I didn't get to read it. Arlen sent it to me. He has the magazine. And what was that all about? You guys went on a trip to the BVI, or how'd you even end up in the magazine?
Well, so Sessions used to be stand-up journal. And then like everything kind of went digital, right?
Yeah.
And so stand-up journal just kind of went digital. Well, Russ Scully, who has a place in Rincon, and he's a big, everything when it comes to wind. And so he lives up in Lake Champlain, and that's all they do up there, wind sports. And so he's a big winger also. And so we've been talking about doing the BVIs now for a couple of years. And
So it's just like a boys' trip? Or?
yeah, it's just a boys' trip.
Nice.
It was starting out. The trip started where Russ was basically like, "All right, Carson, this year we're doing it. Let's do it." And so I've done it a bunch, and I have a friend over there that has a boat also. So I was calling him, and his boat wasn't available. So I ended up renting another. We got like a 50-foot cat from one of the charter companies.
Like a Laguna or something?
A lagoon, yeah, 50 lagoon.
Yeah.
And I've done it for years and years in the BVIs. I love the BVIs. You've been to the BVIs?
Yeah, a couple
Okay,
times.
so
I mean,
you know.
Christmas in July was just this weekend,
yeah.
you know.
Did you go?
No, I didn't
Okay.
go. It's a little bit
nuts.
wild.
It's a little, yeah.
It's a little,
Back
that's a
whenever
bit
I was,
much for me.
back when I was 33, I used to
Yeah.
enjoy it. Now I'm more going with a boys' trip, just doing winging. And so Russ has been talking about it for the past 2 seasons, and finally, he literally was like, "We were pulling the trigger and we were doing it next week. Have you seen the wind?" So I call my buddy. He's like, "Yes, do it." So we literally in 1 week, and then Will Scuden, Chuck Patterson, and Pete Cabrina were supposed to be on the trip. And it was so last minute that Will was about to have a baby, and thank God he didn't go because he had the baby during
No
the
way.
trip. Yeah. And he was like, I got
That'd
a
be a
window.
no-no.
Oh, yeah. I got a window of like 2 weeks. I think I could, zip down there. And thank God he backed out because he literally would have been trying to pick a puddle jumper to get home.
Ouch.
And so ended up, Bobby ended up coming with us. Adrian came with us. And then Stefan, another good friend who is learning to wing foil. And he's a big old boy. He's like 6'4" and like 260.
Wow.
And he bought gear from you.
Oh, did
He's
he?
been here, Stefan. He's from Rincon, big old guy. He's from Serbia, I think. Not Serbia. Where's he from?
Oh, you know what?
You bought North gear, all the North gear.
You
The
collected
yellow,
You collected that stuff on that wing foil Warriors competition. You took the gear for him back.
Yes, that's
right?
exactly
So
right.
I never met him.
Oh, you didn't.
But
So
you
I-
picked
yeah.
up all the gear.
I picked up
for
the gear
him.
and took
Yeah.
it for exactly. So he was on the boat, and then Russ had one of his friends who's a photographer, and so she was on it, Gigi, and man, I mean, you know how one of those trips where it just worked out, like everything, it couldn't have been more perfect. Like the day we got there, the whole week before there was no wind. And the day we got there, it started blowing 20 plus.
Nice.
And it blew 20 plus for 7 days straight.
Nice.
And we just did,
What month was that?
that was April. That was around the first week of April, I think. Yeah. Or was it May? Wait, when was it? May. No, I went to Hawaii in May. So it was like the first week of April. It was first week of April. And
I mean, that could have been hit or miss. It was such a
it was just
whack
we literally
season.
looked at the weather
Yeah.
and we're like, oh my God. We're like frothing, like, oh my God. And Russ is like, pull the trigger, and we're like, all right, let's do it. So we did it.
Nice.
And
Score.
we scored. And we were just like, our whole plan was to downwind from Anegada to Yost.
Uh-huh.
That was like the plan, which is like a 20-mile downwind. And so we went up to Anegada, and then on top of there being 20, 30 knots of wind the whole time we were there, we had a 6-foot, like,
I saw some pretty good pictures of swell.
northwest
and stuff,
swell that was, 12, 13 second period. And so Anegada was pumping. And it wasn't good for surf. It was only good for wing foiling because it just had too much west in it, and there was just lumps coming in that were that big, and it was just crazy. And we blew out 2 wings. Adrian, I'm gonna have to blame him, blew out like 2 wings. There's this one
So you,
little
you
video.
ride with straps, right?
I
Or
ride with just a front strap.
strap, yeah.
I don't like the back strap. I just ride with a front strap. I ended up kicking out of this one set wave, and as I kicked out, the wind just died, and I turn around, and there's a set this big rolling right to me, and Russ is on it, bombing down the face right at me. I literally ripped the leash off. I just ripped it off and threw the wing and dove underwater. That's how much white water was coming at me.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, my life is more important than my wing.
Yeah.
And I just dove underwater, just got annihilated. Russ got annihilated, ripped his wing. So there's 2 wings flying away like this. And Gigi was on the boat with Bobby on the dinghy. They chased him down, got both wings, came back, brought him back to us, and boom, we're back up, 5 minutes later. But it was mayhem, and there was so much chop, and there was just there's so many lumps coming from so many different directions.
Sounds like a foiler's dream.
Yeah, it was, and the current rips, and they say it's very famous for that. Like if you don't have a backup boat, if you don't have a ski, or you don't have something out there, and something goes wrong, you're getting ripped out to sea.
Yeah.
There's just so much current that rips up and rips you deeper into that wave. And years ago, I've surfed it a handful of times. And it's a beautiful spot. It's not a world-class wave, but it's a great wave. It's a big right, and for foiling or kiting, it's insane. And so we got that.
Is that Anegada, or where was that?
That's Anegada.
That's Anegada. Yeah, I've been there once, but I stayed in the flats. It was for like a Tommy Grant has like a kite school there or something.
Yeah, he's still there.
Yeah.
Gaunt. Tommy Gaunt. Yeah, he's still there. And they were coming out, and there's another crew.
Beautiful. What a beautiful place.
Yeah. I remember we went to that place and checked it out. And so we spent a few days in Anegada, and we caught it just going off, and everything just like timed.
Nice.
It just like fell into place, man.
That doesn't happen often.
It was meant to be. And I was just like the gods were with us, man. And so we caught that, and then the wind was blowing to east, so there's no way that we would have been able to do a downwinder because Anegada is like 13 miles north of Virgin Gorda and Yost. Mm-hmm. And so it actually worked out even better. So we went back down to Yost, and then we just started, north of Yost, and just literally like hugged, like there's some little islands all along there, and just kind of hugged them, and then made our way all the way to Yost, and we came right in at the sand spit, which is right there on the tip of Yost, that beautiful little spot that has a killer little left that breaks around it, and you anchor the boat on the inside, and it's just like the most pristine waters with this just white sand little island that's like the size of, this shop basically. And it's
a big shop.
Yeah, it's a big shop. Exactly. Yeah. And so we have that.
That's cool.
But on the way, there's a lot of squalls that day. And so on the way, halfway, full white out, but like 30, 40 gusts easy. We're all on like 5-meter wings. And I mean, it was blowing so hard that like trying to stay together, you know, I was like, all right, let's try and stay. I had a little water pack on me with like my phone, and I had a VHF radio, and I had a little mini EPIRB that I carry with me. I had everything. I was like, so you guys are staying with me. That went right out. That went right out the window, and it was literally like every man for themselves. Like you couldn't see. I probably couldn't even see the windows. I couldn't even see the island at all. And we were just right offshore. I couldn't see the islands. I couldn't see anything.
Like it's sketchy. Yeah.
Full white out, and just nuking wind. So everybody just, you know, we lost everybody
on their own.
And then Adrian, all of a sudden I look up and here comes Adrian, and Adrian's catches up and he's with me, and we're kind of trying to stay together, but it was still so sketchy, and there was waves banking off of the island, and there was waves coming everywhere. And so I kind of stopped for a minute just to make sure we're still on track, and we were a little north. So I was like, okay, I was yelling at Adrian, we got to start heading down south more. And we ended up about almost there. All of a sudden I see Russ, and Russ is like sitting in the water. And he's like, I could see you. I was watching you like the whole time. And I'm like, how could you see me? Like, I couldn't see you at all. He's like, I just turned around. I could see your yellow sail. Because he had like a blue one.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, good. So we just linked up with him and then rode like the last couple of miles. And then finally the squall started dissipating, and we made it to the sand spit. And we were all alive to tell about it. And we had buddies that were there on other boats that were freaking out, like Craig.
Yeah.
Craig had his boat over there, and he was like, dude, we were freaking out. Like when that came over and you guys took a lot longer than we thought you were going to take. And I was like, well, that's because we got blown north, and then we had to come back down. And then, you know, it was,
Couldn't see. Yeah.
it was wild. And then when we made it, you know, of course we had to do, you know, that champagne of victory. You know, break open the Patron bottle and do a shot of victory, and we were just pumped.
That's nice.
And then from there, we
who
did
wrote
another
that?
little.
Who wrote the whole article? Then?
Russ did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Russ wrote the article. Have you wrote it? I mean,
haven't
read it?
No, I haven't.
You got to
that's
read
what
it.
I said so.
Russ has a knack for.
I'll link to it. Yeah.
Russ has a knack for writing, and he sensationalizes everything perfectly, and so. They put a picture of me in that article, like showering, and I'm like, Russ, that was all you. And he's like, I swear that wasn't me. I had nothing to do with the photos. I was like, you guys. And so it was Jeff, his editor, and or his partner, and so it was kind of funny. But it's a amazing article, great week, 7 days.
That's cool.
Yeah, we had a
Great time.
blast. We just downwinded every day, and then we would just, you know, wing where we were at. We'd just go out and just start winging, and wake up in the morning winging, and it's kind of all we did. And it was just, you know, kind of a boys' trip, and now we're just like, okay, this is happening annually.
Yeah.
This is amazing. We were like winging through.
Standards are high.
Oh yeah, we were winging through Necker Island, through Bronson's camp there, Richard Branson.
Yeah. Richard Branson, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there. It's it's pretty sweet.
Sick, yeah. That little island that he has right out there has got fake palm trees on it. They're plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like went over and felt them. We're like, they're plastic.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's just like a rock shelly island. I've set up my kite there.
Oh, yeah?
I've landed there before.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's just sketchy, just full of coral and rocks and these fake
sea urchins everywhere.
Yeah, 3 fake palm trees.
Yeah,
I've drug over top of that reef, the one that he's got around the island.
Yeah.
There was like, we went there with Damien and Shadi and some friends, and as we were going there, he started talking shit to everybody. He's like, Dylan, my boy, is going to beat everybody's speed record around the island. And they have like on the board in the Water Sports Center, they've got this like board where it's like fastest on a twin tip, fastest on a hobby cat, fastest on a foil, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was like,
the pressure's on.
Yeah, he was talking to the main guys or whatever. He's like, oh yeah, just so you know, tomorrow he's gonna race you around the island and Dylan's gonna win. And I was like, bro, I don't even have any foil gear. Like, anyway. So I went practicing, and I was like, okay, well, tomorrow if I'm gonna beat the speed record, I'm like, all right. So
Yeah.
I went around the island once. I was, oh, that felt good. I'm like, I could tack better here.
Okay.
And I went for my second around the island, and I was like cutting it super close to the reef, and I tacked, and I was like, oh, I've got a perfect line, and this huge coral head, like
Yeah.
just out of nowhere. And I was like, holy shit. And I like veered off, I fell. The wind was shit. Kite fell out of the sky, and I just drug over the reef with my foil board and the kite, and it was like, inches.
Yeah.
My shorts were all ripped up, and I was like, oh my God.
Crazy.
What a disaster.
Yeah, and there's reef everywhere like that.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, it's pretty sketchy.
it's sketchy. Like there was a
Yeah.
lot
I
of
came out
spots.
okay,
Yeah, there's a lot of spots where
I could have been worse.
I was like flipping the board over and like, literally like starfishing
Yeah.
my way across some of
Yeah.
the reefs that all of a sudden the wind would die. And, you're just like, yeah, there's some
Gotta
sketchy
be careful around
reefs.
those islands.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily, I don't know who was captaining the boat. Who was doing that?
Everything, I'm telling you, it was divine intervention. The local captain was from there. He was from Virgin Gorda.
Oh, so you guys had a captain.
We got a
Oh,
captain
nice.
because
That's nice.
normally I would do it.
Yeah, that's what I
but
was thinking.
Russ was like, "No, you're going to
That's
be
work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I don't want you. We're going to wing foil,
Nice.
so I don't want you following us around and and stuff like that. You're going to miss out, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And so
Were
we
you
hired a
hesitant about
captain.
that, or
Is what?
Did you have to fight him on that, or no?
On Russ?
Of you being the captain?
Not
or
at all.
not? No. You're
As
like-
soon as we talked
you're
about it, I was like, "You're
right.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
I want to wing anyways."
Yeah, yeah.
And plus, it's better we have a local captain
No,
who
for sure.
knows everywhere. Like we told him what we're doing, and he was, thank God, because a lot of those captains are like, "Oh no, 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 you're gonna get out and go from that island to that island in a squall," and I'm not, no, like that ain't happening. Like some of them will be like, no, but
Yeah.
this captain, he was
Captains are strict.
yeah, it's captain's rules. What's
Yeah.
captain's rules? I'll tell you captain's rules. Rule number 1, that the captain's never wrong.
Yeah.
Rule number 2, if the captain's ever wrong, you always refer back to rule number 1. That's captain's rules. Yeah. So this captain of ours his name is Levin. His name is Levin. I'm sorry. His name is Levin, Levin. And right off the bat, the minute I said, "Hey, Captain, what's your name?" He's like, "Levin." And I was just like, "11?" And he's like, "No, Levin." Well, it was 11 the whole rest of the trip. Oh yeah, it was great. So everybody called him 11. They'd be like, 11. So he was classic. You'll see him. He's got a cameo photo in that magazine.
Yeah.
And he still calls me. He still randomly calls me. "What's up, Carson?" Yeah, he's local. And
awesome.
so he knew the waters like, I mean, he was like, no, I got a better spot that we can go to. The wind over there. And he's had guys on the boats before, that were out kiting and winging and everything. So,
That's cool.
and he knew every stop that we hit, he'd go to the beach. He knew everybody.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so we'd come in and it'd just be like, yeah, it's like we were locals.
That's so cool.
So that trip was a special trip.
Good
It was,
call.
when I say it was divine intervention, it was, we were blessed, man.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to top
all the way
that,
around. Yeah. It's hard to top it. We're going to try though.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know until you try.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
for sure.
so yeah, great trip.
Cool.
Yeah, just I mean, I'm happy what you got going on here because there's nobody really on the island there's nobody doing this, and so anybody's asking me like Stefan asking me for gear, I'm
Yeah.
like, man, you gotta make a trip to
It's a job.
you gotta go to San Juan, you gotta hook up with Dylan, he'll get you set
Yeah.
up.
I was thinking about it because I'm packing for my trip to Maui, and I'm like, oh man, I got to make sure I got everything and a leash, and I've got my list, and I'm like, but if I forget something, I could buy it there, right? Like there's shops and stuff, and I was
Yeah,
thinking,
the shop that Art works at
Yeah.
is insane.
yeah.
Like there's not a square inch of that shop that
I know
doesn't
that's
have-
not
it's-
filled up. I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Like you got to slide, you got to get skinny to walk in between the
Yeah.
aisles of all the clothing and the
Yeah.
foil gear and the
Yeah.
wind gear and just surf gear and everything. It's
And then it came to me, and I was like, when somebody comes here, that's why I try my best to always help everybody and fix their stuff and like make sure I've got the screws, because there's nowhere else to go. You know, like someone comes here on a kite trip or a wing trip or something or foils, like if I don't have it or I can't help them, and it feels, you know, it feels bad.
Yeah.
You know,
You want to help. You want them to have a good time.
Yeah, for sure. I want everybody on the water, right?
Yeah.
So it's
pumped.
It dawned on me. I'm like, that's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure because you're pretty much the only guy doing it here, right?
Yeah, and we're building and growing, and you know, little by little, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I love this island. I love
me
what
too.
it's given to me and what I've learned from it, and you know, the business that we're growing here, and the people that I'm meeting, and the community that we have, and you know, things like what you're doing with the, you know, the Rincon Water Safety, and what Bragg brings here and gives to the community, and just all of it, right? So I've only been here for 6 years, but you know, there's a whole lot more that this island's going to give me. So
we're
so I'm
fortunate,
pretty stoked.
Grateful I am that I've been a part of such an amazing community, like the water community. I love Latins in general. I just love them. Just their passion alone. You know, I've had, you know, basically, you know, Latin wife, you know, my whole 33 years I've been here. It's only, you know, and I've got 2, you know, Latin kids. You know, I've got a son. He's in Miami. He's a captain. He's a dock master. He was in the Coast Guard. He's actually right now delivering an 85-foot boat up to Providence, Long Island.
Wow.
Rhode Island. No. Cape Cod. Providence, Cape Cod. That's where he's going into. And he just called me yesterday, and they're like just passing Montauk. And, you know, he's just, you know, he's kind of following right in my footsteps. It's pretty cool seeing that happen. And he's 29. And so, yes, very love this Puerto Rican culture. I couldn't imagine being anywhere else.
Yeah.
I've been all over the world, and everywhere that I've gone, I've always just been like, I wonder if I could live here. And I'd just be like, man, nothing is like Puerto Rico.
Yeah, there's something, like when I go to the States or I go to Florida or something, I'm there and I'm like, oh, I don't know, it just doesn't resonate with me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, just being in the concrete or, you know,
No.
commuting to somewhere, it just doesn't feel the same, you know?
It's so raw here.
What kind of energy that you get from it, you know? Here, there's so much, you know?
Yeah.
There's so much spice.
Yeah, there's spice. I love that spice too. Yeah, it's raw.
You know, I grew up in Mexico, spent a lot of time in Dominican Republic.
Me too, yeah.
I was in Africa a little bit, and you know, it's just all of that just feels so, you know, I feel right at home with it, you know, and I resonate more with it for sure.
And people see that and they know it and they feel it.
Yeah.
That's why they love you.
Well, we hope so.
Yeah.
Some do, some don't. No.
Well, that's
No,
anywhere. That's anywhere you go.
Yeah, everyone's got their taste.
The majority, of course, but the majority appreciate what you're doing for the community here.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have you on. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I'm gonna make sure I split this up somehow, because we've got our foiling content, and then, you know, your little bit of a safety rundown, which was super awesome and informative.
Yeah.
So thanks, man. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
We'll see you next time.
Man. Sure. God bless. All right.
What do you want me?
So first off, let's just let's go through the AED.
Yeah.
Let's start actually. So on my jet ski, what I always like to have, really, there's 2 essential safety pieces of equipment that I think everybody should have on their jet ski, and that's 1, definitely a tourniquet.
Yeah.
And then 2 is what is called a emergency compression bandage, which is this right here. And you can buy them right at Amazon, you know. And so these things, you can buy a handful of them.
Oh, it's like vacuum packed.
It's vacuum packed, so I'm going to show you exactly what it is. But pretty much what I do is I just have a little Patagonia bag. I've got my tourniquet here. I got my compression bandage here. And then the compression bandage, the way that it works is you can actually use it. Yeah, you can throw that down. You can actually use it as a tourniquet too.
All right.
But what's nice about it is that this thing has got, it's got a gauze pad. It's got a thick gauze pad. So if you've got like a major laceration from a foil, from tow foiling or whatever, so then all you do with this is basically you're going to put it on the arm here, right on the cut, and then it's going to start absorbing the blood. And then when you wrap it, you've got this little plastic piece right here.
Oh, shit.
So you see that? So what you're going to do is you're going to run this bandage, this ACE bandage, through it, and then you're going to bring it back around, and you can crank it as tight as possible. You can even twist it and wrap it to where it's like acting as also like a tourniquet. Yeah. And so this thing right here is amazing.
Does this replace a tourniquet?
If you have a tourniquet, you don't want to take it off and then do this. You want to use them both together. So in other words, the tourniquets are always going to be high and tight. So if you have a cut right here and this is all wrapped up like this, then I'm going to come in and put a tourniquet on you right here. Probably what I'll do first is if this is a major laceration and you're actually just bleeding out, I'm going to put a tourniquet on you right away. And I'm going to try and stop the bleeding. And then I'll take this and I'm pretty much packaging you up to get you to the hospital. So I want to put this on also, cover it up. So one, you ain't looking at it. You know, it's always good just to cover it up, even if you got a towel or you got a rash guard or something like that, and wrap that around you. So the first thing I would do on a serious trauma on an arm, a leg, or something like that, which would be from a foil cut or something, is tourniquet it, and then with that, that's going to absorb so much blood.
Feels like plastic.
But it's still that thing.
But if you didn't have a tourniquet,
this would help.
It would do it.
It would do it.
It would do the job, not as well. But
not as well, but at least you could hopefully get some clotting. You could hopefully at least get some closure and at least get you to the hospital and you wouldn't bleed out. And you could use this as a tourniquet also. Like you could literally twist it and start wrapping it just like you would a leash or something like that if you didn't have a tourniquet. But there's no reason.
And when it starts hurting, you need to tighten it more.
So
as tight as possible.
Well, it's going to hurt more than the laceration. So when you do a tourniquet, pretty much these tourniquets are very simple.
I mean, I carry a tourniquet in my boat and the jet ski. Everywhere.
Me too. I have it everywhere. And look, they're so small, you can throw it in anything, right?
Never had to use it.
And so, I have yet to have to use a tourniquet, thank God. But pretty much the windlass, it twists like this, and that's what's going to twist and tighten it down exactly.
Just cranks
and so you just keep cranking it. People always, they go, all right, so how long do I crank it for? You crank it until the blood, until the blood stops squirting out. When the bleeding stops, then you stop. All right, and then once you finish it, it locks in. You got a Velcro right there. You have a time. The reason they want to know the time, if someone has a Sharpie, you can actually put the time on. But you want to record the time when you actually put the tourniquet on. So when you get them to the doctor, they will know how long that tourniquet's been on. Because if it's been on for a long time, exactly, they'll know how to take it off. If they need to release it immediately, what they need to do. Also, your blood that's in that appendage can also become toxic. And so there's a lot of reasons why they would need to know the time. But so this right here, these two pieces, the emergency compression bandage and the tourniquet should be on all jet skis. And they're tiny. And you just put them in a plastic bag or something. You buy this on Amazon, it comes already
waterproof.
It's vacuum packed. It's waterproof. So you just throw it in there. All right. So that's that. Next thing, this is like this kit right here has got all kinds of good stuff in it. It's expensive. It's like a $400 kit, I think it is. But it's waterproof, you know. And
I mean, if you're on a boat.
If you're on a boat, this is good to have. It's one of those North American rescue kits. They also have, this is the waterproof one, but they also have one that's just a soft bag that's a lot cheaper. So that's something else. Next thing that I usually always carry with me, I have in my truck, I have on my boat, I do not have one on my jet ski, but normally on the jet ski, you have enough speed to get somebody back to where they
you know
can
where
get.
you're going with an AED.
You always have, exactly, and you always have like an EAP, emergency action plan, right? And so I have an AED at the dive shop. We usually always, our mission always, if something happens, bring them to the ramp. Bring them to the marina, get them to Taino Divers immediately. I have a lot of stuff there that I could package them up, and then we take them to the hospital. We don't wait on an ambulance. Still, you can call 911. Get, just get the
wheels in motion.
The wheels in motion. You can do that, but when you get to the marina, if there is no ambulance there, we have somebody that we've already, before we even go out, we're already like, okay, where's the keys to your truck? So if anything happens, and if it's you, we know where the keys to your truck is. We're gonna grab your truck, back it to the ramp, throw you in it, grab the AED, throw that on you, and rush you to the hospital.
All right.
That's our plan. That's our EAP. So an AED. Very quick. So this thing is really easy to use. People freak out because they're like, oh my God, it could shock me or something like that. You can't get shocked if you're, even if you have your hands on that person, it will not shock. Okay?
It's got a computer in it.
It's automated.
It even tells you what to do. It talks to you.
It's idiot-proof practically. So the pads, that's the electrodes that come with it. Pretty much you just rip that open, and there's pads on the inside of here. And then, right whenever you get it, there's an on-off button. All you do is you just hit it. It'll start lighting up, and it's going to start talking to you.
Adult pads. Unit, okay.
So it tells you all this.
Attach different pads to patient's bare chest.
It even has a picture. All AEDs have a picture of where to attach the pads, how to attach them. There's more than one. There's usually on the pads and there's on the actual AED. So once you do that,
Pads to patient's bare chest.
it's going to run through the process, and then when it tells you to shock, it's going to light up. So see how it's lighting up? It will light up the shock button, which is the middle heart button, and you just push it. Okay, it's simple as that.
Attach different pads to patient's bare chest.
That's as easy as it is. Turn it on and listen to it.
And when would you use that?
So you use that anytime that you know that somebody is in a cardiac arrest. If somebody, it could be in a Walmart. Somebody keels over, you immediately start doing CPR on them. That's the first thing you do. You just right on the ground, you go right into CPR. You can naturally, if they fall over, you can right away you can come down and just be like, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? You can actually even rub on them, rub on their chest right here, because that'll usually stimulate them.
Poke them in the ribs.
Yeah, but you know what? As soon as you start doing CPR on somebody, if they're going to come back, they're going to come back right there. Because imagine you getting pounded on like this. You're going to be like, oh, and you're going to come to. So don't be afraid to start doing CPR right away. All right, so if somebody keels over, I'm just saying, if it happens in like a Walmart or something like that, or a Home Depot, you can come in and right away just be like, hey, are you all right? If they are not responding to anything, if they aren't moving, anything like that, then you can right away start going into CPR. That's exactly what I would do. I would come in, I would get them flat on the ground, and I would be like, call 911 right away, all right? And then I would go right into doing CPR. And that's if I find them like in a Walmart. If I pull them out of the water, you know that probably the reason why they're going into cardiac arrest,
drowning,
is because they're hypoxic. They have no air, right? And so what you want to do is you want to get air into them. And so immediately, you can even do it on a surfboard. Like if you pull them up on a surfboard, you can actually right away grab them. And there's a couple of methods, but when you ventilate a victim, you want to do it, you don't want to just like you're blowing up a balloon. It's a nice, easy 1 second blow. It's just a like that. Just like that. And so if you see the stomach rising, it means that you've blown too hard. And normally what will happen is you'll get air down into the stomach, it's going to make them vomit.
Yeah.
which is going to create more of an issue,
Yeah,
right?
that's not
and
good.
so that's not good. And so what you do immediately is if you get them in the water and they're on the beach, you can immediately give them anywhere from 2 to 5 breaths. Like you want to try and get some oxygen into them. Now, if you don't know how to do it, once again, just go into CPR.
Yeah.
So
Something is better than nothing.
Exactly, just do something. And so going into CPR also, so if it's me and if I'm by myself, what I'm gonna do right away, I'm gonna lay them flat on the beach. I'm gonna try and tuck some sand underneath their head so their head falls back and their jaw opens up like this, and it opens up
The airways.
Because when you're doing CPR on the recoil, so it's down, and when you come up off of that chest, that actually is opening the lungs. So it's pressing the lungs and then opening them up, which is going to suck air down into the airway. And that air actually has more oxygen than us blowing into them. Because a breath, we usually have around 15% O2, where the air is 21%.
Yeah.
So it's actually getting air into the victim. If you have a second rescuer, you want them to so that would be you just hold the jaw open like that to keep it open. Now, as I'm doing CPR, what we teach is every 10 compressions, you're going to give 1 ventilation, okay? And you would just do that right into their mouth. You would pinch their nose and then just ventilate into their mouth. That is if you do not have a barrier. Hopefully, and in every one of the AEDs, we have a pocket mask.
Yeah.
So with these AEDs on the beach, all these AEDs, there's a pocket mask. And so all you do is you throw the pocket mask on them just like this, where it's covering their nose and their mouth.
Yeah.
All right? And then you just blow right through the tube, right there.
Yeah.
And you just, perfect. You just cup it just like that, where it's got a good seal. You're opening it up, and then you just blow straight through the tube like that. And it would be every 10 compressions.
Yeah.
They teach, and like American Red Cross and American Heart Association, they teach 30 and 2, 30 and 2. Okay, so 30 compressions, 2 breaths. But when that's fine too. You can do 2 breaths also.
Yeah.
All right, just as long as you're getting some ventilations into them. Now, if you have 2 rescuers, you don't want to stop doing CPR. When you're pumping their heart, you're acting as their heart.
Yeah, so you're
right?
pumping blood circulation to the brain.
Exactly, circulation to the brain. And so if you stop pumping, even for a couple of seconds, all of that pressure that you had already built up is going to fall back down.
Right.
So you're going to build up all this pressure going up into the brain. When you stop to give 2 breaths, all that pressure and that blood's going to fall back down. So if you have more than 1 rescuer, you have somebody that is doing CPR the whole time.
Yeah.
And the CPR is 110 compressions, more or less, 100 to 120 compressions a minute. So it's pretty fast, right? So it's like almost double to a second. The way that you do it, it's by the song Staying Alive. So it's like, staying alive, staying alive. So it's like that cadence, right? And so just to show you how to do it, you always find it, you want to go in between the nipples, right there, so it'd be right here, and you just put one hand on the chest right there, put the other hand on top. People talk about locking them. This hurts after a while.
Yeah.
The most comfortable way to do it is you put your hand on top of the other hand, and then the key is you want to lock your elbows, and you want to use your body weight, because this is going to take a while. So
Yeah,
if
you
you're
don't wanna be
sitting
doing
there,
this,
no,
you know?
because you will burn out quick. So all you do is you use your body weight, and you're going to go half the distance into the chest. And so
That's quite a bit.
It's a lot. So you're pounding them. You're like basically breaking ribs. Like this is a kind of a violent action. And so you're just basically going, staying alive, just like this. and just pumping, all right? And you are their heart. So you just lock the arms, see how my weight is over it?
I'm here.
You're there, yep, you're holding it every 10, so I can even count. I could be like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, breathe. You know, and just keep doing that. And then what I can do is I could be like, okay, Dylan, I'm getting tired, man. We're gonna switch. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna come alongside here, and when we go to switch, so we don't really miss a beat, I'm gonna count down. I'll be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you go into it. And then I switch, and then I am the airway, right? And so that's basically it. CPR, anything happens, go right into CPR.
Yeah, so the most important is, what I remember is, you get someone to call 911 right away.
Right away.
You know, like you specifically, not like, hey, someone call 911. You're like, hey, you're now in charge, call 911, and then you immediately start CPR.
Yes.
While you're telling somebody else to go get an AED.
Exactly.
You know, and then you're doing that until an AED, which even a baby could use. You know, open it up, slap it on.
So what happens is, if the heart is fibrillating, which is beating really fast, when you go into cardiac arrest, it starts beating really fast like this, and it's out of rhythm. The AED is going to shock it back into rhythm. And so, but if there's no heartbeat at all, it's not going to do anything. There's got to be some electricity going on in the heart. If there's none, if they've been underwater for so long, there's none, then you, as the rescuer, are their heart. But hearts have started from CPR. And so what you do is, so we'll run through it real quick with the AED. So somebody shows up, I'm doing CPR, somebody shows up with the AED. What I'm going to do, I'm going to keep doing CPR. I'll just tell you, all right, put the pads on the victim. So all you're going to do, you're going to come over, and there's actually diagrams on them. So you got one pad here, and the other one is on the right here.
What if you got like a hairy chest like me?
Okay, so with a hairy chest and they won't stick, if you can't get them to stick, then all these AEDs have a razor in them. So you just got to shave the area where the electrode has got, where the pad has got to go. So you just quick shave them. Also, if they're wet.
Dry it off.
Yes, if they're wet, so all the AEDs that I have.
Cut off their shirt.
If they have a bathing suit that you can't pull up or something, you know, if they have a wetsuit on, then there's scissors. That's also, so we put scissors, a microfiber towel, razor, and the tourniquet is in all these, and a pocket mask. So right now, you put that on, you rip the shirt off, take the towel, dry the area just where the pad's got to go, slap the pads on, keep doing the CPR. Whoever has the AED is going to turn it on, and it's going to run through it. So you just keep going.
Patient is a child. Press the child button.
And I'm going to show you how to do a child here in a second.
Do not touch the patient.
Okay.
Analyzing heart
No one touch the patient. So you make sure that no one is holding.
Do not touch the patient.
They're analyzing.
Heart rhythm. Shock advised.
So the light
Do not
for the
touch
shock.
The patient.
It's going to come on.
Clear.
Everyone clear.
Press the flashing shock button.
Boom. Shocked. Go right back into CPR.
Begin CPR.
See, just go right back into it. They will analyze. See, there's a metronome going also. Some of them have metronomes. But if they don't, staying alive. And so every 2 minutes, they will reanalyze. It'll say, okay, no one touched the patient. We're going to reanalyze the patient. And if they've got, they tell you to shock. They'll say shock, stand back, so no one touches it. They shock, and then you go back into CPR. And so that's how easy the AED really is. It's that easy. So
20.
That's with an adult. So with a
bring me the baby.
Exactly. So with the baby, it's a little different. So with a baby, you're going to use 2 fingers for the CPR, just like this. All right. Now, what's good about just having to use your fingers also is you can pick the baby up and you can start running with the baby. Like if you've got to run to your car, if you're by yourself, and you can just use your thumbs like this. This also works.
Yeah.
So you can be like,
You gotta be strong.
yeah, for a while.
Yeah.
But this will also work like that. So you can use your thumbs on the baby or just 2 fingers like that, okay? Now, with the AED, you do not want the pads to touch each other, okay?
Yeah.
They can't touch each other because then they can't read the heart rate. So what you want to do is you're going to put one pad on the chest.
Front to back.
Exactly. And then the other one is going to go on the back, just like this, front to back, just like that. Boom. Turn it on,
Adult.
and it'll go through the same thing.
If the patient is a
And if-
child, press the child button.
Some of them have child buttons, but some of them don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Remove packet and apply pads onto child's bare skin.
But you're still doing CPR, right?
You still keep doing the CPR, yes.
Press pads firmly on skin.
So you don't stop the CPR. And then with a baby, you can also, when you're doing mouth to mouth, you can do both the nose and the mouth is in your
like
mouth.
over, yeah.
Yep. You can do it that way too. So you're making sure, but you got to make sure that
Their airways are
their airways
clear.
open and don't blow too hard.
Yeah.
That's the key. People
Everyone,
are excited, panicked,
Yeah.
and they're going to be like, I'm not getting air in there.
Yeah, you see
You
this.
know, and the stomach is going to come up. Next thing you know, they're going to start vomiting, and then it's just going to be even worse because then they can't breathe because they got vomit. And so if they do, which I've had, pull people out of the water, and right away when I start doing CPR or I start doing mouth to mouth with them, they start vomiting.
Yeah.
Then just roll them over real quick, you know, just roll them over and just let them vomit out. You know, you can even bang on them, talk to them like, you got it, and then roll them back over. If they're not responding, then go right back into the CPR again.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's with an infant, with a half an adult, and yeah, and we did the AED. How
Yeah.
easy it is to use an AED. It's basically turn it on and listen to it,
Yeah.
and it tells you what to do, and it has pictures for everything,
Yeah.
and so it's idiot proof. And then you've got, you know, for blood control.
Most places will have one, right? I mean, big department stores
Yeah,
should
they
have
usually
them.
all have them.
You know, I've
So-
got one here. We're a tiny surf shop. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to get no use there.
You
hopefully.
never know. Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, so basically, you just run through the process. Somebody goes down right away, call 911. Somebody go get an AED and go right into CPR.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you doing CPR on them is not going to harm them. So if you just go right in, but what you could do is you could come over, do the sternum rub, or just tap on them like, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? And if they don't respond, you don't even need to go into trying to check the carotid pulse, because if they're having a heart attack, a lot of times they're
I
swollen.
could even tell sometimes.
You can't
You're
even
like,
tell. And also you start feeling it's just
Yeah.
if you just go right into CPR, and if they're going to come to, they'll usually come to right there.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of crazy, but 2 classes, I swear, 2 classes, the New York class and then the North Carolina class last year, during the CPR portion of the class, we had 2 people fall out.
What?
I swear. The first time it happened, the guy ended up having a serious
Did
heart.
somebody think it was a drill?
Oh yeah, we all did. I was like, this is a drill. And right away, there was a fireman that was standing right next to the one guy. He just jumped on the guy and was just pounding him, CPR. And we were all like backing up, call 911. Guy calls 911, and everybody's backing up, moving the chairs out of the way because he literally just fell off the chair.
Shit.
And just went down. And we were all like, I'm looking at Uncle Pat, and I'm like, is this real? And he's like, this is real. I was like, what? And so then he came to. The guy came to, and and when they come to, they usually start fighting. They're just like, what are you doing? And we're like, hey, you're all right. And they try and sit up right away. You don't want them to sit up right away because then all the blood falls out of their head and they'll go right back out.
Yeah.
And so you just leave them there. Just, hey, relax, breathe. You just passed out. At New York, same thing happened. A guy was sitting in a chair during the CPR course. Boom, falls out. But he came to right away, but he was right away trying to get up, and we're like, no, just stay seated for a minute. You just passed out, you know? He's like, yeah, I was feeling real dizzy and weird. And so we were like, all right, here, let's get you some electrolytes, water, start drinking water. Did you eat this morning? He goes, no, I didn't eat anything. So it's crazy though, in both those classes, during the CPR portion of the class, we had 2 guys that went down. Crazy, isn't it?
It's wild.
Yeah. But that's basically it when it comes to CPR, what to do, you know, if you find somebody on a beach or in a, you know, a Home Depot, you know, 911, get an AED, go into CPR, then, you know, ventilate. You can do it either every 30 and 2, or you can do it every 10 compressions.
It's just more important to keep their heart going.
It's more important to keep the heart going. But if they are a drown victim, right away, you want to get air into them. Yeah. You want to get some oxygen into them, because obviously they've been underwater, so they're hypoxic for sure. So you just want to get air into them right away, and sometimes just air into them will bring them back. But if not, air, and then start going into the compressions.
Right on.
I think that's about it. I think we got it all, man. Awesome.
Carson, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, no, Paul, thanks for having me.
Hopefully somebody learned something from this, and don't be afraid. You know,
just do something.
It can't be worse.
No, you can't kill them.
No. We can't kill it.
No, you can't. So, man, just do something. That's all we ask.